Chapter 1440. Long Chen saw that the situation was going well. Although he still had doubts in his heart, he gradually relaxed his vigilance. Day after day passed, and things progressed very smoothly. On the fourth day, the group deployed the daydream powder as usual to attract monsters. They were already familiar with this kind of thing. Soon, everything was arranged and they quietly waited for the prey to take the bait. In 3 days, they had hunted a total of 5 or 6 prey, including a Hongmeng first-stage chaotic prime realm monster beast. The spoils of war could be said to be very impressive. However, Long Chen hid in the shade of the tree with a cold look in his eyes. That bad feeling appeared again. Long Chen shook his head and said, "Yanli, let's be careful. I keep feeling that something is wrong." "What's wrong?" "We'll be done soon. Do you understand?" Yanli obviously didn't listen. His eyes were fixed on the trap as he said with a smile. Long Chen didn't say anything more. At this moment, the grass around the trap suddenly shook. Everyone immediately hissed and held their breath. It was a giant python with a heavy aura. Its aura had reached the Hongmeng first-stage chaotic prime realm. "Good boy, we caught a big guy." Yan Li's eyes were a little excited. He licked his lips and said slowly. Long Chen frowned. It was just an ordinary Hongmeng first-stage chaotic prime realm monster beast. Why did it have such an impulse? Was he thinking too much? Now's the time. Attack! Yanli saw the giant python enter the trap and took the lead. A large saber appeared in his hand. The saber flashed and directly charged at the giant python. The others also attacked together. All kinds of attacks instantly drowned the giant python. The giant python roared and swung its huge snake tail. One of the team members didn't react in time and was hit by the tail. He immediately retreated and fell to the ground, losing his ability to fight. Hongmeng demon beasts, even if they were of the lowest level, were not an ordinary challenge for these Hongmeng people. Long Chen roared. The light around his body surged, and the dragon halberd appeared in his hand. In this kind of situation, he naturally would not sit back and watch. The dragon halberd turned into specks of cold stars and instantly rushed forward. After completing the cultivation of the second part, Long Chen had the strength of a second-stage chaotic prime from Hongmeng. Although the giant python was powerful, it was definitely no match for him. What's more, Yanli was assisting him from the side. 2 people, one with a saber and one with a halberd, moved around the giant python and left wounds on its body. Immediately, the giant python revealed a weakness. Long Chen naturally wouldn't let it go. Die! Long Chen roared. The halberd pierced through the air like a dragon, wanting to take its life. The giant python seemed to have sensed Long Chen's killing intent. It roared, shaking the void and causing people's hearts to tremble. The surrounding trees also fell under its roar. Long Chen's dragon halberd was also deflected under the impact of the sound wave. It didn't hit the python, but it still left a hideous wound on its body, dripping with blood. The giant python was obviously seriously injured. It was only a matter of time before it was killed. "Well done, Brother Long Chen." Yanli laughed. His saber trembled, and the saber light fluctuated. A terrifying aura trembled, and countless rays of light surged. It was incomparably sharp, as if it was going to kill the giant python directly. However, Long Chen didn't care about this at all. He smiled coldly, and his eyes flickered. The weak were prey to the strong. This was the eternal law of this world. However, at this moment, an even more terrifying roar suddenly came from the forest. It was filled with endless anger. A terrifying aura filled the air. A huge tree flew out from the forest and blocked Yan Li's attack. The giant python escaped death. What the hell? A group of people gathered together. They looked dignified. They knew that they were in big trouble now. Long Chen looked forward with a sharp gaze. The giant python raised its head. Although it was seriously injured, its eyes were filled with hope. It called out softly to the existence in the forest. In just a moment, another giant python appeared in front of Long Chen and the others. Its body was hundreds of feet long, and its whole body was shining with a black metallic luster. Its huge eyes were strange and cruel. He spat out his scarlet tongue and came to the side of the giant python. He gently approached it and licked the muzzle of the giant python a few times. The giant python's wound was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Brother Longchen, we're in big trouble," Yanli said. There was an indescribable fear in his eyes. This giant python monster's aura was clearly far stronger than the previous one. It had reached the second level of the chaotic prime realm in Hongmeng. It was not far from breaking through to the next level. Its terrifying power made people tremble. This is the limitless python. Oh my God, how did we meet this guy? Could it be that these two fellows are a couple? How did we meet them? It's over, it's over. The aura of fear spread. A group of newcomers who had never seen such a situation trembled. The old people told them to shut up and stared at the two giant pythons in front of them with flickering eyes. "Limitless python, Brother Longchen, do you want to challenge us?" Yanli smiled bitterly. His fighting spirit was immediately ignited. A faint purple luster flickered all over his body, and electric sparks appeared around him. Longchen also nodded. The dragon halberd trembled and fell into his hand. His aura was pressing against the two giant pythons. "Leave the big one to me. I'll leave the small one to you. Everyone else, don't get close to the central battlefield. Attack from outside and distract him." Longchen immediately stepped forward and soared into the sky. His target was the limitless python. Among them, only the two of them had the strength to deal with a chaotic prime in Hongmeng. Longchen was stronger, so the limitless python was naturally his. He was now eager to know the limits of his strength. The limitless python had come at the right time. "Brother Longchen, be careful," Yanli exhorted Longchen. With a long saber in hand, he directly charged at the giant python. All of this happened in an instant. The limitless python's eyes were filled with anger. It opened its bloody mouth, and the stench was incomparable. However, Longchen's expression was solemn. The halberd transformed into countless illusions in the void. It was mighty, and it directly turned into a torrent that rushed forward. However, the limitless python's skin was coarse and thick. This attack was like a tickle to him, but it only made him angrier. With a roar, the heavens and earth seemed to tremble. His movements were extremely fast. A layer of black aura enveloped his body, and it transformed into countless black nightmares that charged forward. Chapter 1441. Sunluo Python. The reason why this beast had such a name was because the nightmare it created could make people fall into Sunluo hell. Unless one had a strong will, they would only end up as food for the Sunluo python. With such a strange and unpredictable power, the slightest carelessness would consign one to eternal damnation. Longchen's figure changed, and his dragon halberd pierced through the air. Every time he attacked, countless nightmares would shatter. However, Longchen did not care about this at all. He only sneered. His whole body flickered with a faint luster, and the shadow of his primordial spirit appeared behind him. The Sunluo python seemed to be angry. Endless black aura appeared behind him and shrouded his figure. "Brother Longchen, be careful," Yanli reminded from the room. He wanted to help, but he was entangled by another python. Longchen's eyes seemed to have a dragon swimming away. Light radiated in all directions, and the dragon halberd trembled. It was like a ray of light that tore apart the dark sky. It was mighty. A long halberd appeared behind him, and faintly formed a formation. It completely enveloped him and the Sunluo python. His figure was incomparably small compared to the Sunluo python, but it could not be ignored. Golden Lotus God-killing formation. Following Longchen's roar, golden light crisscrossed in the void. A tyrannical aura appeared, and 81 dragon halberd shadows entangled around a certain area of chaos. Gradually, a golden lotus was born. It was like a touch of brilliance between heaven and earth. It was incomparably dazzling. In just a breath's time, the lotus bloomed, and the lotus petals drooped down. It seemed light, but it had the power to shatter everything. The 81 halberds crossed the sky, and together with the lotus petals, landed on the Sunluo python, and frantically strangled it. Compared to 10 years ago, Long Chen's control of this Hongmeng mixed yuan technique was much better. Roar! Everything happened too quickly, and the Sunluo python did not even have time to react. It was engulfed by the sword formation. The scales on his body shone brightly, emitting a black light. Black nightmares appeared, protecting his body. The golden lotus petals and the 81 halberd shadows were like divine swords that pressed forward courageously. Every time they attacked, they would tear apart a large piece of the black aura. Finally, the limitless python's protective black light was completely devoured. The limitless python roared and was drowned by the golden light. At this moment, the giant python that Yanli was facing seemed to have gone crazy. It directly rushed towards Long Chen. Yanli seized the opportunity and directly stabbed the python's vital point. The python, which was already seriously injured, wailed and fell to the ground. It was obviously dead. Yanli stopped and looked in Long Chen's direction. He couldn't help but sigh. It was already difficult for him to deal with a heavily injured python, but Long Chen could now fight against a second-level primordial chaos python from Hongmeng. The gap between them was getting bigger and bigger. Finally, the light disappeared and the figure of the limitless python appeared in front of them. After suffering such a powerful attack, he was still alive. This showed how terrifying the vitality of the limitless python was. However, even if he was still alive, he was already on the verge of death. His body was densely covered in wounds, and his wounds were hideous. He looked at the corpse of his wife and roared. His eyes turned red, and he directly rushed towards Long Chen like a madman. Long Chen shook his head. The dragon halberd landed in his hand, turned into a golden light, and rushed into one of the python's wounds. The scales of the limitless python were extremely hard and difficult to break. However, if they were already broken, his flesh and blood were not as strong as the scales. The dragon halberd wreaked havoc in the body of the limitless python. The python's attack stopped, and it kept struggling on the ground. It disrupted many of the surrounding trees and kicked up waves of dust. However, Long Chen's expression did not change. His eyes flickered, and the dragon halberd directly broke out of his body. A golden light landed in his hand. Long Chen laughed loudly, and his eyes gradually dimmed as he looked at the limitless python. Not bad. Long Mu praised. Thank you. Long Chen replied. Under normal circumstances, it would be harder than ascending to the heavens to get a word of praise from this fella. But now, it seemed that his performance was pretty good. Otherwise, this fella Long Mu wouldn't have opened his mouth. Brother Long Chen, are you okay? The eyes came over, and there was an indescribable surprise in his eyes. The limitless python was Hongmeng's second stage chaotic prime, close to the third stage. However, it was easily killed by Long Chen. Did that not mean that Long Chen now had the strength to challenge his father, Yin Yong, the strongest person in the Yan tribe? The other team members also surrounded him. Other than the person who was seriously injured by the python at the beginning, the others only had minor injuries that did not affect their movements. They surrounded Long Chen, and there was an indescribable respect in their eyes. The strong were respected, and this was the first law everywhere. Okay, let's go and pack up first. Then, we'll continue our journey, Long Chen said calmly. The body of a grand mist demonic beast at the second level of the primordial chaos realm was a treasure that couldn't be wasted. At this moment, Long Mu's voice rang out. The gallbladder of the Sunluo python has a miraculous effect on restoring one's foundation. Moreover, the python is also known as the little dragon. The essence blood between its eyebrows is also effective on you. If it's suitable, your 8-part heavenly dragon art should be able to break through to the 4th part with its help. Long Mu's words made Long Chen excited. The 8-part heavenly dragon technique was the foundation of his cultivation. Now that the opportunity to break through was right in front of him, he would not give up easily. The dragon halberd landed in his hand, and he walked to the corpse of the limitless python. According to Long Mu's instructions, he took out a snake gallbladder the size of a human head and put it away. Then, he walked to the head of the limitless python. Even in death, its huge snake eyes were still filled with unwillingness. The dragon halberd pierced through its forehead, and 3 drops of blood that shone with 7-colored brilliance appeared in his hand. The faint shadow of the limitless python could be seen within them. Long Chen quickly put it away. Long Mu, is this blood essence between the eyebrows the same as what I knew? Long Chen could not help but ask. The Hong Meng was very different from what he knew in the past. What was the use of the blood essence between the eyebrows of a weakling python? Long Mu's tone regained its arrogance, and he said, a snake's dream is to shed its mortal body and become a dragon. As long as a snake has some cultivation, it will condense its life essence between its eyebrows. That is the foundation of its bloodline transformation. Unfortunately, from what I know, there are not many who can successfully transform into a dragon. Long Chen looked at the limitless python again, and sighed. He kept the blood essence between his eyebrows, and looked at Yen Li and the rest who were handling the corpse of the limitless python. They skinned it and removed its bones, making the best use of it. Yen Li and the rest saw Long Chen looking at them, and they all bowed. They were very impressed by the power he displayed today. Chapter 1442. Ha ha ha, this is a great harvest. I'm sure our 2 teams will definitely be in the top 5. When the time comes, our families will also be able to get more resources, ha ha ha, all of this is thanks to brother Long Chen. I didn't expect him to have such strength at such a young age. Otherwise, I'm afraid we would have had to run for our lives. Some of the team members were obviously very happy and chatted amongst themselves as they collected useful materials from the 2 pythons. However, at that moment, Long Chen suddenly felt a chill as a cold light flashed. It was a bow and arrow aimed at one of the team members in the middle. Get out of my way! Long Chen reacted quickly and a burst of light appeared in his hand, repelling the attacker's attack. This sudden change attracted the attention of many people, and all the team members rushed towards Long Chen nervously. Get out here, what are you hiding for? Yen Li's temper was very bad and he shouted directly, his face extremely ugly. Obviously, he was a little angry. The attacker was undoubtedly a human, but it was unknown which tribe he belonged to. Killing people for treasures was a common occurrence in the Demon Crystal Forest. Yen Li and Long Chen stood side by side and looked towards the place where the bow and arrow had come from. Everyone looked like they were about to face a great enemy. A series of noises rang out from that place as 5 figures walked out. Every single one of them was at the half-step primordial chaos prime realm at the very least. The other 4 had all reached the primordial chaos prime realm. As for the leader, the scarred man, his aura was even fiercer than Yan Yang's. He was no different from the master Long Chen had encountered in the outside world of the ancient sacred god world. He was also a Hong Meng chaotic prime realm master. Although there were only 5 of them, they could easily crush Long Chen's team. TSK, not bad, you actually managed to kill the limitless python, one of the team members said. One of the members of the opposing team spoke. Seeing the Sunluo python behind them, his eyes were burning with desire. The Golden Devil Forest was huge, and Long Chen's tribe was not the only one hunting here. Many other tribes hunted here, and they often encountered other hunting teams. This group of hunters had been attracted by the shockwaves from the battle between Long Chen and the limitless python. The limitless python's body was full of treasures. Even though it was only a 2nd-level chaotic prime from Hong Meng, it was still precious enough. Naturally, they would covet it. Long Chen stepped forward with a cold look in his eyes. He asked directly, why did you attack us just now? Scarface, who was the leader, pretended to be surprised. He looked at his companions behind him and said, brothers, what is he talking about? Did you see that? No. Who was it that launched a sneak attack? I didn't see it. The members behind them laughed, not putting Long Chen's team in their eyes. How could the people of our Gale tribe do such a shameless thing? You must have seen wrongly, ha ha ha. Their acting was too clumsy. Long Chen and the others were sure that it was them. Yanli looked at them. Although he was angry, he did not dare to vent. The Gale tribe was a big tribe in the area, and they had a 5th-level chaotic prime expert in their tribe. The Yen tribe couldn't compare to a 5th-level primordial chaos prime expert. The 5 of them quietly set up a trap, trapping Long Chen's team. They had absolute suppression in terms of strength, and they had no respect for Long Chen's team. You! Long Chen wanted to explode. However, he was stopped by Yanli. Brother Long Chen, bear with it for now. They are strong, and we are not their opponents. It's better not to cause trouble, Yanli said. However, his tone was a little bitter. Obviously, he was very unwilling. However, he knew that this was the magic crystal forest. If they were killed, no one would know. TSK, TSK, TSK. We were chasing a Sunluo python, but unfortunately, it escaped. We didn't expect it to appear here. It's really hard on you. The scar-faced man's excuse was very clumsy. He asked for the Sunluo python's corpse. Yanli and the team members behind him were angry, but they did not dare to say anything. However, they were not as strong as the scar-faced man, so they could only endure. Seeing his subordinates put away the Sunluo python's corpse, the scar-faced man seemed to be very satisfied with Yanli's team's reaction. He laughed. Yanli took a step forward and said, Your Excellency, since you have taken the Sunluo python's corpse, can we leave now? The Sunluo python was a Hongmeng monster beast that they had spent a lot of effort to kill. He was naturally unwilling to give it up so easily. However, for their safety, they had to give it up. However, at this time, the scar-faced man suddenly opened his mouth. His eyes were cold as he looked at Long Chen's team members. He laughed evilly, Leave? Okay, it's just that our team lost a lot of storage pouches just now, and they look very similar. It looks very similar. Hand it over and let us check if it was us who lost it. This was blatant extortion. There were too many secrets of a cultivator hidden in the storage pouches. The scar-faced man's request was really too much. Yanli's expression changed, but he still said, Your Excellency must have seen wrongly. These storage pouches are all ours. However, the scar-faced man seemed to have changed into a different person. His eyes became cold, and he smiled. TSK, 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 I seriously suspect that you have a guilty conscience. TSK, TSK, TSK. Let me check. Do it. In an instant, the team members around him released their auras. The combined aura of 4 primordial chaos, 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 primordial. Long Chen's eyes were cold. Golden light lingered around him, dissolving the aura around him. However, Yanli's expression was a little ugly. After all, his foundation was not as strong as Long Chen's, so he could only grit his teeth and hold on. Tisk, TSK, TSK. You still have to hold on. Not bad, not bad. Obediently hand over the storage pouches. The scar-faced man stepped forward and pressed on. Long Chen and Yanli looked at each other. They knew that resistance was the only way out now. In just an instant, Long Chen and Yanli directly attacked. The dragon halberds flew across the sky, and the void trembled. Long sabers appeared, and saber light flashed. Chapter 1443. Ha, kid, I admire your courage. The scar-faced man laughed and mocked. An earthy yellow aura surged behind him and rolled around his body, condensing into an armor. The dragon halberd swept through the air and a cold light appeared, but it only left a shallow scar on the armor that quickly recovered. As expected, it's still too difficult for him to challenge a 3rd-level chaotic prime from Hongmeng. Long Chen thought to himself. His eyes lit up and 2 golden dragons appeared. The dragon halberd trembled and shone brilliantly. "Haha, kid, I'll show you the power of a third-level chaotic prime from Hongmeng." The light on Scarface's body surged, and the yellow armor became more and more solid. In an instant, he attacked and turned into a big yellow hand. He wanted to capture Long Chen. Long Chen's figure shifted and dodged his attack, but Scarface did not give him the chance. A burst of brilliance appeared behind him and turned into countless earthen drops that surged toward Long Chen. The three primordial spirits behind him opened their eyes at the same time, as if they had materialized. Ordinary. A barrier rose, seemingly trapping Long Chen in it. "My Qian Yuan shield can even trap a third-level chaotic prime from Hongmeng for a while, let alone a kid like you, ha ha ha." Scarface laughed wildly. Obviously, he had already predicted Long Chen's fate. On the other side, Yanli was besieged by 3 first-level chaotic primes from Hongmeng. He was already in a precarious situation. The battle with the giant python had cost him a lot of energy. Now that he was fighting 1 against 3, he was naturally losing. "Brother Long Chen, run! I'll create an opportunity for you." Yanli suddenly roared at Long Chen. The purple swallow thunder god hammer appeared in his hand, and purple lightning appeared around his body. After 10 years, he had a deeper understanding of the Yan tribe's unique Hongmeng chaotic prime technique. Endless purple lightning surged around his body, and his eyes were filled with purple light. Tisk, TSK, TSK. Hongmeng's mixed yuan technique. Good stuff. I didn't expect you guys to have some treasures. Scarface's face suddenly turned greedy. Yanli had already reached the final juncture, and his aura had reached its peak. "Brother Long Chen, I will create an opportunity for you. Run." Purple swallow divine spirit strike. A terrifying aura descended. The 3 Hongmeng first-stage chaotic primes around them could not withstand the impact at all. Their eyes were filled with fear as they frantically retreated, but Scarface continued to press forward. The Qian Yuan shield appeared and trapped Yanli within it. On the other side, Long Chen also realized that this was an opportunity. He immediately released light, and endless divine brilliance appeared and turned into a blooming lotus. Golden Lotus God-killing formation. Ha ha ha. 2 Hongmeng primordial mixing arts. Who would have thought that the heavens would actually bestow upon me such a great opportunity? Ha ha ha. However, Scarface laughed wantonly and was not afraid at all. He could crush the 2 of them in terms of strength. The khaki-colored armor released endless light and blocked the golden lotus. The Qian Yuan array was activated and completely enveloped Yanli. Naturally, his moves could not be used. All of this happened in a flash. Scarface turned his head and grinned. "Brat, now we can have some fun. I will gladly accept your Hongmeng primordial mixing arts." Long Chen's dragon halberd soared into the sky and transformed into 81 rays of divine light. They bloomed together with the golden lotus. A sharp aura appeared and the golden light flashed. Long Chen's expression changed. He realized that Scarface's strength was definitely not something he could fight against right now. He immediately glanced in the direction of Yanli and his team members, and his figure changed. "Wait for me to come back and save you. Where there is life, there is hope." It was obviously irrational to fight Scarface now. If he wanted to save them, he had to become stronger. "Ha ha. You have successfully angered me. Do you think you can run away?" A furious voice came from within the golden light. Scarface walked out with a large hand dripping with blood. Under Long Chen's golden lotus god-killing array, his armor was shattered and his clothes were tattered. He was covered in wounds. Although they were not serious injuries, he was enraged that he was beaten to this state by a half-step Hongmeng primordial chaos realm. Scarface roared. The khaki-colored aura surged and turned into a huge fist. It charged directly at Long Chen as if it was going to kill him completely. "Damn it. Let's fight." Long Chen cursed. His eyes were cold. The distance was too close. If he continued to escape, he would definitely die. Long Chen took a step forward. The divine light around him surged and turned into a magical ray of light. The shadow of the primordial spirit appeared behind him. It opened its eyes and merged into Long Chen's body. Then, there was a burst of bright light and a golden dragon coiled around his arm. A golden dragon coiled around his arm. It was the 2 golden dragons condensed from the 8-division heavenly dragon technique. A dragon's roar was heard. Long Chen's face was crazed. He threw a punch and collided with Scarface's attack. The huge impact caused Long Chen to bleed from the corner of his mouth. His face was pale, and his left arm drooped powerlessly. However, the effect was still huge. Scarface's huge fist had been shattered, and he looked a little stunned. He hadn't expected that his full-powered attack would be broken. Taking advantage of this moment, Long Chen's figure changed and broke through the air. Only a cold and indifferent voice was left echoing in the air, "We will meet again someday. The next time we meet, I will take your head." To avenge today's incident, Scarface wanted to chase, but his expression changed. He spat out a mouthful of blood. In the impact just now, he had also suffered internal injuries. His face was ferocious. He looked at his subordinates around him and roared, "Chase! You must kill him for me." Long Chen's potential was simply too great, causing Scarface to feel fear. A few of his subordinates were also injured. Yanli was a battle maniac. Even if it was 1 against 3, they were still injured. Even Yanli's injuries were more serious. However, Long Chen's speed was far above theirs. There was nothing they could do. A bunch of trash. Scarface watched Long Chen escape. He was so angry that his teeth itched. "Ha ha! Brother Long Chen, well done." Yanli was lying on the ground and laughing. Suddenly, he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. After a while, Scarface calmed down. One of his subordinates came over and asked carefully, "Boss, how do we deal with these guys?" Chapter 1444. That goes without saying. Kill them all. Wait, leave the leader behind. I still want his Hongmeng mixed yuan technique. Scarface said. He was still angry and blamed everything on them. However, his subordinates seemed to be in a difficult position. He said, "Boss, that's not good. We've already offended that guy. If we kill them, we'll only make him angrier. It's better to leave them alive so that they won't attack us. They're just trash. If they die, then they die. What's the use of keeping them alive? If I didn't underestimate him this time, how could I let that guy escape?" Scarface's face was still angry. He wanted them all dead. However, his subordinate shook his head and said, "Boss, don't forget. Our goal isn't these guys. The thing we want requires a lot of blood. You see, these people all have cultivation. They'll definitely be more effective than those monsters." Scarface's expression became hesitant. He waved his hand and said, "Okay. We'll leave them alive for the time being. We'll make the best use of them." Then, they began to clean up the battlefield. They took all the storage bags from Yanli and the others and ran towards a certain location. On the other hand, Long Chen's physical condition was also very bad. After clashing head-on with Scarface, his internal organs had all been injured. His internal organs had been displaced, and his left arm had been directly broken. The strength in his body had also been completely exhausted. If it wasn't for his strong willpower supporting him, Long Chen would have fainted on the spot. After running aimlessly for more than 10 minutes, he exhausted the last of his strength and fell beside a small stream. "Hey, wake up! If you don't wake up, you'll be eaten." After an unknown amount of time, he was awakened by a voice. Who else could it be but Long Mu? However, when he opened his eyes, a pungent smell assailed his nostrils. Where was this? Looking at the 2 big white tigers in front of him, they were eyeing Long Chen covetously. They rubbed their palms and opened their bloody mouths, wanting to swallow Long Chen whole. Judging from his aura, he was just an ordinary Hongmeng realm monster beast. Normally, he would be able to suppress him with a raise of his hand. But now, he had become a fatal threat to him. Long Chen rolled on the ground in an unsightly manner before finally dodging the attack. However, the two tigers seemed to be enraged as they charged towards Long Chen. Long Chen roared as he forcefully activated the remaining power in his body. Light surged as he struck out with his halberd. It turned into two beams of light and killed them in the cave. Phew! Long Chen let out a long sigh. He lay on the ground and looked at the ceiling of the cave, exhausted. He only felt sore and swollen all over his body. Golden rays of time were falling from the Dragon Palace to restore his physical body, but the speed was too slow. Long Chen looked around. This should be the two tigers' cave. He should have been picked up by the tigers for lunch after he fainted. In a sense, they could be considered to have saved Long Chen. Otherwise, in that kind of place, he was afraid that he would not be able to survive. He would have died without a burial place. After a long time, he sat up with a trace of strength in his body. Tisk, tsk, tsk. I thought you were going to feed the tigers. In the Dragon Palace, Long Mu looked at Long Chen with a playful expression and said, if you were really eaten by the tigers, Long Chen, you would be embarrassed. Long Chen turned a deaf ear and did not want to talk to him. Long Mu laughed for a while and felt bored. He shook his head and waved his hand. Long Mu's tomb opened and a pill flew out and landed in Long Chen's palm. This pill should be helpful to you. Take it. Long Chen took the pill and his consciousness returned to his body. He saw that he was holding a pill in his hand. The smell of the pill assailed his nostrils. Long Chen swallowed the pill without hesitation. His eyes were shining and there was an indescribable excitement. Waves of brilliance surged. The effect of the pill was very good. In just 3 days, Long Chen's injuries were completely healed. He opened his eyes and 2 rays of golden light appeared. Then, they disappeared. Long Chen said faintly and let out a long breath. His eyes suddenly became sharp. Long Mu, come out for a while. Long Chen said. His tone was calm, but there was a hint of anger in his words. He recalled the battle between him and Scarface. If he was strong enough, how could he be so humiliated? Long Mu's voice came with a hint of roguishness. What's wrong? Are you angry now? Why are you talking to me in such a tone? Long Chen did not want to be entangled with him too much on this matter. He said, how do you use the limitless python's gallbladder and the blood essence between your eyebrows? Tell me. He urgently needed to become stronger, and the fastest way to become stronger was to strengthen his foundation so that he could be on par with Hong Meng's 3rd stage chaotic prime realm. Long Mu said faintly. Naturally, he could hear the urgency in Long Chen's voice. He said, although the limitless python's gallbladder is a good thing, it is extremely painful. Ordinary people can't bear it. It needs to be mixed with medicinal herbs, but if you want to, you can also try to challenge your limits. As for the blood essence between your eyebrows, it's even simpler. You can directly integrate it into your bloodline. However, it's very dangerous to integrate it directly. Generally, you need the assistance of pills. Also, I'm sorry to tell you that whether it's the limitless python's gallbladder or the blood essence between your eyebrows, I don't have the required medicinal herbs or pills. Do you choose to use the most primitive method to break through, or wait for the medicinal herbs to be available? He was waiting for Long Chen's choice. What kind of man are you to be afraid of? Long Chen said without hesitation. His eyes were extremely sharp and flickered with a faint brilliance. He looked outside the cave. He spoke again. Long Mu, I need time to break through. Can you hide me? Easy. Long Mu snapped his fingers. A golden light appeared between Long Chen's eyebrows and merged into the void in front of him. Next, no matter who it is, as long as their strength does not exceed Hong Meng's consolidation realm, they won't be able to see your existence. That's great. Thank you. Long Chen said, then closed his eyes. In front of him, a dark green snake gallbladder the size of a human head and 3 drops of resplendent blood essence between his eyebrows floated. The blood essence entered his body. the violent power quickly turned into the most fundamental power and fused with him. This giant python wanted to transform into a dragon, so the power in its body faintly fused with him. There was no need to refine it too much. Chapter 1445. That's great. Thank you. Longchen said, then closed his eyes. A dark green snake gallbladder the size of a human head floated in front of him, as well as 3 drops of blood essence between his eyebrows. Longchen did not have any doubts and swallowed the gallbladder. He had to admit that even though he was mentally prepared, he was still shocked by the bitter taste when the moment came. Yes, it was too painful. Longchen only frowned, and the aura on his body gradually stabilized. You can endure it. Not bad, not bad. Longmu looked at Longchen's performance and said slowly. However, the roguish look on his face was gradually replaced by a dignified look. Although the limitless snake gallbladder was extremely bitter, the medicinal effect was real. A warm current flowed in his body, and Longchen hurriedly used the 8th-division Heavenly Dragon spell to absorb and refine this power into the primordial spirit shadow behind him. Although the limitless python was incomparably ferocious, his snake had a mild medicinal effect. In just 3 or 4 days, the limitless python's gallbladder had been completely absorbed by him, and a 3rd golden dragon had also appeared in his primordial spirit shadow. My foundation has tripled, but it's still not enough. Longchen said faintly with a sharp look in his eyes. He looked at the 3 drops of blood essence between his eyebrows in front of him. At this moment, Longmu's voice sounded at the right time. Let me give you a piece of advice. The blood essence between your eyebrows contains the terrifying will of the limitless python. Without the help of elixirs, it's very dangerous. Are you sure you want to continue? Longchen nodded and closed his eyes again. He urgently needed power now, so he did not need to care about danger. His eyes were bright and spirited as he looked at a certain spot and said slowly, "Come on. Good luck." Longmu's tone was a little heavy, which was rare. Longchen carefully used his consciousness to guide a drop of blood essence between his eyebrows into his body. However, the moment it entered his meridians suddenly boiled as if they had been dripped into a hot pot of oil. A shadow of the limitless python rampaged in his body. Longchen's expression changed, and he mobilized his power to suppress it. However, at this moment, Longchen's heart suddenly began to beat violently. His meridians seemed to be made of gold, and a dragon's roar came from his body. The limitless python trembled and did not dare to act recklessly. It obediently followed Longchen's instructions. I'm F*King jealous of this guy's physique. Heavenly Dragon Vein. How can this be? Longmu was driven mad by jealousy. He even cursed as he looked at Longchen with flickering eyes. He naturally knew what was going on. Longchen possessed the Dragon Clan's supreme sacred body, the Heavenly Dragon Vein. Even a pure-blooded Dragon Clan would have to bow down in front of him, let alone a mere snake. The limitless giant python directly attacked Longchen, kneeling in front of his physique. For others, it was extremely difficult to fuse bloodlines, but for Longchen, it was as simple as eating and drinking. Longchen himself did not know, he only thought that Longmu was deliberately scaring him. The process was very smooth. Because of the selfless contribution of the limitless python, he only took half a day to successfully fuse with the bloodline. Another golden dragon appeared in the shadow of his Yuan spirit behind him. 4 golden dragons swam in the shadows of their primordial spirits. Bursts of golden light flickered, and an aura of a monarch arose spontaneously. Longchen looked at his Yuan spirit and smiled, "Let me test my current strength." Anyway, they were in the magic crystal forest, not like in the Yen tribe where they had to be restrained. They didn't need to act crazily. Longchen roared. His eyes were sharp and a terrifying aura surged from his body. When his fist landed, golden light flickered, and a terrifying aura spread. The entire cave suddenly collapsed at this moment, and dust scattered in all directions. It was extremely terrifying. Longchen's figure appeared in the middle. His clothes fluttered, and not a trace of dust was brought away. At this moment, because the cave collapsed, a raging bull roared. Obviously, it was furious that Long Chen's actions had disturbed its rest. It charged directly at him. Judging by its aura, it was already a Hongmeng demonic beast of the Hongmeng realm. I'll use you to test my strength. Long Chen's expression did not change. The 4 golden dragons merged into his body and shone brightly. Light surged, and the divine splendor shattered. The raging bull seemed to feel that something was wrong. It wanted to escape, but the golden light fell and there was nowhere to run. It roared and lost consciousness. After doing all this, Long Chen's eyes did not change at all. It was as if he had done something insignificant. With your current strength, you should be able to compete with an ordinary Hongmeng Realm 2nd stage Chaotic Prime. If you have the support of 4 golden dragons, an ordinary Hongmeng Realm 3rd stage Chaotic Prime will not be your opponent, Long Mu's voice sounded. Long Chen nodded. Now that things had come to this, he could finally take revenge. However, he did not know how Yanli and the others were doing. He took out a token. This was the Yen tribe's communication token. It could sense the location of other members. However, Long Chen was afraid of being tracked when he was escaping, so he put it in the Dragon Palace to isolate it. But now, he did not need to worry so much. After sensing the location of the token, Long Chen looked over. When he arrived, he found that it was the place where they had been. There were some tokens scattered on the ground. Obviously, they were deliberately left behind by the scar-faced man. It was probably to prevent Long Chen from tracking them. You're a little cunning. But do you really think it's so easy to get rid of me? Long Chen's eyes turned cold. When he was fighting with the scar-faced man, he left his mark on him. No matter where they went, as long as they did not exceed a certain range, he could sense them. Long Chen's eyes flashed. He tried to sense them, but there was no trace of them. It could only mean that they were not within his range of perception. Long Chen had a headache. The magic crystal forest was so big. If he did not know where they were going, even if he had the means, he would not be able to do anything. Even if he did not know where they were, it would be useless. He was afraid that they would only get further and further away. However, when he stood up, he suddenly found a bloodstain on the ground, pointing in a certain direction. Could it be that Yanli and the others deliberately left it behind to guide him? Chapter 1446. Long Chen's speed was very fast, and he kept moving in this direction. However, Long Chen had been separated from them for too long. Long Chen chased after them for 2 days without any progress. What is this? Long Chen noticed that there seemed to be something hidden in the grass in front of them. He walked over to take a look, but found a corpse. His face was ferocious, and his body was full of scars. His limbs were also broken, but Long Chen still recognized him at a glance. This person was the one who was seriously injured when they hunted the giant python. He didn't expect that he would die here. And looking at his appearance, he also suffered inhumane torture. Long Chen looked at him expressionlessly. A golden flame appeared in his palm, and wrapped the corpse in it. He said indifferently, "Rest in peace. I will avenge you." His voice was cold, but it was powerful. After collecting his ashes, Long Chen basically confirmed their direction. He looked in a certain direction and smiled cruelly, "Wait for me to cut you into pieces." In Scarface's team, Yanli and the others lowered their heads and followed closely behind Scarface's team. There was a person beside them who kept urging them, "Hurry up. Trash is trash. You walk so slowly." Yanli and the others lowered their heads, but their eyes burned with the flames of hatred. As long as there was a chance, he would definitely tear them to pieces. Yanli and the others were in a very bad state. Everyone's clothes were ragged. Although Scarface spared their lives, he didn't give them any food. He just kept them in a state where they wouldn't starve to death, but they couldn't fight. Yanli's state was even worse. Scarface was very interested in his Purple Swallow spiritual attack, and he would personally torture Yanli. As a result, Yanli was covered in scars, but even so, he didn't say anything. In just 10 days, 2 or 3 members of their team had died. This made Yanli very sad, but there was nothing he could do. Trash. Have a good rest. Don't think about escaping. Otherwise, you know what will happen. The person guarding them said coldly and ran to the front. During this period, Yanli and the others didn't think about escaping, but they would be discovered. One of them was directly beaten to death, and the others were ruthlessly humiliated, so they gave up the idea of escaping. Finally, they waited for a chance to rest. Yanli sat down, and the others surrounded him. They were now in despair. "Captain, do we still have a chance? I heard them say that they are going to send us to Hongmeng. I don't want to die." A sense of despair spread among them. Yanli had to do something, so he nodded. His eyes flickered, and he said faintly, "Don't worry, we will be fine. Longchen will come back to save us." Speaking of Longchen, their faces became more gloomy. They knew Longchen's strength. Although he was very strong, he wasn't a match for Scarface. They didn't doubt that in 10 years, or even 100 years, Longchen would be able to beat Scarface. But now, they obviously couldn't wait. Moreover, Longchen had escaped with great difficulty. Would he really come back to die for them? Only Yanli shook his head and said firmly, "Everyone must believe in Longchen. He will definitely come to save us." Scarface's strength was far superior to theirs, so he naturally heard Yanli and the others' discussion. He shook his head and showed disdain. He had never taken Longchen seriously. "Xiaoxi, what's the situation now? How long will it take for us to arrive?" Scarface suddenly looked at the shortest member behind him. Xiaoxi walked forward and said, "Boss, we are very close to that guy. According to my judgment, this position is the best place to set up a trap and ambush that thing." "Okay, you arrange it. Remember to pay attention to the surroundings. Don't let that little fly come over and disturb us," Scarface suddenly said. Xiaoxi naturally knew that he was talking about Longchen. He nodded and said, "That little fly is probably still healing somewhere. How could he have the courage to come here?" "Ha ha, that's true." Scarface laughed. "I finally sensed it." Longchen's face was filled with joy. After chasing for 5 days, Longchen finally sensed the aura he had left on Scarface's body. "It's here." He hurriedly changed direction and rushed over. The closer he got, the more careful he had to be. When the aura was strong enough, Longchen suddenly opened his eyes. He was in high spirits. He parted the forest and looked at the scene in front of him. Yanli and the others were trapped in a spell formation. There were 5 members guarding around them. Scarface's expression was also serious. He was guarding one of the places. "You can bleed them now," Scarface said. Suddenly, one of his men stepped forward and slashed them a few times. Blood fell into the spell formation below them. Instantly, the smell of blood rose and filled the air. "Now, we just have to wait for the big guy to take the bait. Everyone, be careful and hide well." Scarface laughed loudly. He was indescribably excited. His figure changed and disappeared. The others did the same. Longchen's eyes sharpened. They seemed to be using Yanli and the others to lure something. Fortunately, he came in time. Otherwise, they would really be demonic beasts. The first thing he had to deal with was Scarface's lackeys. Although they were not a big threat to Longchen, it was inevitable that they would be a little troublesome. Anyway, they were hiding separately. It was easier for him to deal with them one by one. He hid in the position of one of the men. Like a thunderbolt, a dagger appeared in his hand. He directly cut the man's throat without causing any disturbance. After dealing with one, Longchen's targets saw one after another. He knew that he had encountered a problem when dealing with the last guy. He actually had a protective talisman on him. Longchen's attack was blocked. Instantly, there was a commotion. "Murder!" Little Four ran out from the forest. He was extremely panicked. Scarface's expression was unhappy. His figure appeared. he was somewhat angry. "What's wrong with you?" However, before he could say anything, a sharp golden light appeared. The dragon halberd directly pierced his chest. Little Four's eyes gradually lost their light. He slowly fell to the ground, revealing Long Chen's figure. "Nothing much. It's just that you all are going to die here." Chapter 1447. It's probably because he said he was going to die. This matter. Long Chen's eyes were extremely sharp as he quietly looked at Scarface. At this point, there was no need for him to hide anything. He directly exposed his position. Long Chen laughed loudly. His eyes were extremely solemn with a hint of anger. He looked at Scarface and said, "I've said that we'll meet again. I'm back for you." Yen Li and the others were also attracted by the commotion. Their eyes lit up, but they soon became worried. "Brother Long Chen, I know you're eager for revenge, but now, you're no match for him at all. Run." He probably couldn't imagine what kind of changes Wang Xiaoyong had experienced in just a dozen days. However, at that moment, the scar-faced man waved his hand. The ground trembled and Yen Li and the others were trapped. They couldn't move or speak. He looked at Long Chen with a smile that was not a smile and said indifferently, "I'm afraid you don't know that this is actually a joke, a gigantic joke. I really admire your courage. You've already escaped, so why did you come back to die? Is it because you're too bored?" As he spoke, an earthy yellow aura rose and enveloped his body, turning into a suit of armor. He waved his hand and said, "Brothers, let's go." However, no one greeted them. Scarface seemed to have realized something and sneered, "I didn't expect you to be so fast. You actually killed them all." Hong Meng's chaotic prime realm was an extremely precious resource even in the Gale tribe. But now, they had fallen just like that. How could he not be angry? The aura around him trembled. He stared at Long Chen and said, "I'll make you pay." However, Long Chen's eyes flickered as he looked at Scarface. His body surged with light, and the brilliance between heaven and earth surged. Finally, it turned into a dragon halberd and fell into his hand. He didn't show any signs of weakness. "I'm very curious. What kind of price can you make me pay?" Long Chen laughed mockingly, his eyes filled with disdain. The dragon halberd swallowed and spat out a brilliant light, and a faint golden light emerged. Long Chen roared and charged forward. "Ha! A man is trying to stop a chariot." The scar-faced man erected a defensive barrier. The earth trembled, and an earthen wall condensed in front of him, blocking this move. However, this was not the end. The aura around his body trembled and his eyes were filled with light. In the end, a long saber was condensed, shining with a dangerous light. The saber landed in the scar-faced man's hand, shining brightly. "Dying under my blade is too easy for you," Scarface said, but his expression became more and more dignified. "This time, I won't give you another chance." As he spoke, his figure changed, leaving behind a series of afterimages in the void. Saber light crisscrossed and raged. In the end, it evolved into a saber net that completely enveloped him. Long Chen's expression was dignified. Two golden dragons appeared, and the shadow of his primordial spirit floated and merged into his body. The dragon halberd landed in his hand, condensed a brilliant light, and surged toward the scar-faced man directly. Saber light and sword shadow, the two of them continued to exchange blows. The surrounding trees could not withstand the terrifying impact and were directly smashed into pieces of wood. "You used a forbidden technique, right? But how long can you maintain this state?" The scar-faced man was also shocked by the state Long Chen was in. He definitely did not believe that this was an improvement that could be obtained in a dozen days. The only explanation was that a forbidden technique could increase one's strength in a short period of time, but it required an unimaginable huge price to pay. Long Chen just shook his head, his eyes flashing, and continued to exchange blows with the scar-faced man. However, Long Chen roared, and his expression changed. He said, "You won't understand my realm." "Ha ha! Then let me see it." He roared, and his eyes were cold. The long saber swept across the sky, and the heaven and earth trembled. It faintly turned into a yellow giant python that seemed to be able to devour everything. Hong Meng's mixed yuan art, giant python eats living. Following his roar, the giant python soared into the sky. If the Yan tribe had the inheritance of the Hong Meng's mixed yuan art, then there was no doubt that the other tribes would have their own inheritance. The giant python appeared, and it went straight for Long Chen. Long Chen's halberd swept across the sky, and at the same time, he threw it out. It turned into a golden light, and condensed around Long Chen. 81 dragon halberd shadows condensed behind him, and a golden lotus bloomed in the void. Long Chen's eyes were sharp, and the lotus bloomed, incomparably bright. Golden lotus god-killing formation. The giant python directly swallowed the golden lotus, and this scene was shocking. The scar-faced man laughed wantonly. "Ha, you can't even withstand a single blow." However, Long Chen's face curved into a mocking smile, and he said indifferently, "Really?" The giant python in the void let out a blood-curdling shriek. Its entire body glowed, and a crack appeared from the inside out. Long Chen's eyes were sharp, and his entire body flickered with a faint light. He looked like a god. "Break!" Long Chen said indifferently. The giant python in the air let out a miserable shriek as its gigantic body crumbled inch by inch. Through some of the cracks, one could see the golden brilliance within. The giant python shattered and disappeared between heaven and earth. As for the golden lotus, it also lost its luster and withered away. They were actually evenly matched. How is this possible? How can you be so strong? The scar-faced man was shocked. Even if he used a forbidden art, it was impossible to have such a terrifying increase in strength. He looked at Long Chen and roared. There was a hint of fear and trembling in his voice. However, he quickly calmed down and said, "He's just a brat at the Grand Mist Realm. He won't be able to withstand a single blow." In the midst of self-hypnosis, the scar-faced man roared, and the aura around him was bright. He condensed a Qian Yuan formation around Long Chen, and wanted to trap him within. What a waste of effort. Long Chen held the dragon halberd and stepped forward, like a peerless emperor, and was extremely terrifying. The dragon halberd in his hand trembled, and the endless void rippled. The dragon halberd turned into countless cold lights, and directly made a few big holes in the Qian Yuan formation. Then, it exploded in the void and disappeared. The scar-faced man felt that something was wrong. He and Long Chen faked a move, and directly disappeared into the void. However, when they turned around, they met Long Chen's gaze, which was extremely cold. "Isn't it a little too late to leave now? I've said that I'll make you pay the price. Die. You forced me to do this." The scar-faced man was also anxious. He condensed all the blood in his body and directly rushed forward, turning into a terrifying light. A huge fist shadow appeared, and it was even more powerful than the previous one. Chapter 1448. Scarface's strength increased rapidly. Long Chen's strength had exceeded his expectations. He never expected that Long Chen, who had returned, would have a qualitative improvement in his combat strength. It was unbelievable. "You forced me to do this." Scarface was also anxious. He condensed all the vitality in his body and charged forward, turning into a terrifying brilliance. A huge fist shadow appeared, even more powerful than the previous one. "I've been waiting for you." Long Chen roared, and his body flickered with cold light. Waves of brilliance surged, and the 4 golden dragons behind him swam in the void, supporting Long Chen's left arm. The golden light was dazzling, and the momentum was magnificent. How is this possible? Scarface's expression changed the moment he came into contact with Long Chen. He looked at his surroundings in horror, and his figure fell. His arm was already crippled. This punch had definitely surpassed the level of Hong Meng's 3rd stage chaotic prime realm. It had reached another realm. The fist shadow shattered, and Scarface's father fell into the void, leaving behind only a ray of light. There was nothing else. Long Chen naturally wouldn't let go of such an opportunity. The halberd flew across the sky, shining brightly, and directly pierced through Scarface's forehead, completely crushing his body and primordial spirit. Hong Meng's third-stage chaotic prime realm expert had fallen just like that. Long Chen panted heavily. This battle was quite a burden for him. He hurriedly adjusted his aura, and only then did he calm down. Yanli and the others looked at Long Chen with eyes full of shock. Scarface was dead, and the technique he left behind was broken. Yanli and the others were out of trouble, but their current situation was very bad. Only their eyes were bright and full of spirit. Fortunately, Long Chen showed his strength. Otherwise, we would all die here and feed the monster beasts. Long Chen, I apologize to Xiangxi. I shouldn't have doubted you before. I didn't expect Long Chen to have made such great progress in such a short time. As a Hong Meng cultivator, he killed a third-stage chaotic prime from Hong Meng. Long Chen, you're defying the heavens. The rescued people surrounded Long Chen, chattering like a savior. However, Yanli stood up with trembling eyes and said, Brother Long Chen, I knew you would come back. Long Chen didn't say anything. He just patted him on the shoulder and smiled faintly. There was no need for any deep words between the two of them. Long Chen just smiled. Time was of the essence. Scarface's purpose was to use them as bait, so Long Chen wouldn't let them stay in this place for the time being. After losing 3 members, they were only left with 7 people. Fortunately, they only had a little bit of blood and chi. As long as they had a good rest, they would be able to recover. Long Chen gave each of them a pill. After they were far away from the area, he fed them the pills. The team members' bodies flickered with a faint brilliance. The light around their bodies surged as they entered a state of cultivation. Yan Li's injuries were very serious, but his cultivation foundation was strong. It only took him a quarter of an hour to recover. I can't thank you enough. I, Yanli, owe you my life. Yanli said. Long Chen just smiled and didn't refuse. He looked at Yanli and asked, Yanli, what are Scarface and the others planning to do? Why do they need you as bait? Yanli raised his eyes. He seemed to understand Long Chen's meaning. He seemed to want to monopolize Scarface and the others' results. However, he still opened his mouth and said, Scarface and the others are planning to use the blood conversion array to dissolve our blood and attract the Hong Meng monster. From what they said, it seems that the Hong Meng monster is very strong. Even they can't do anything to it. That's why they set up a trap. From what they said, it seems that there's something in the trap that can greatly reduce the strength of the Hong Meng monster. But now, they don't have the chance to do anything. Long Chen didn't hesitate to take their results for himself. He brought Yanli back to the place where they had just fought. That monster is very sensitive to blood. If there's no blood to attract it, I'm afraid it won't be of any use. Yanli reminded him. Long Chen nodded slightly. This seemed to be a small problem. However, he quickly found the 4 people he had killed. Their bodies weren't cold yet, so they should be of some use. As for Scarface, there was nothing left of him. He threw the 4 corpses into the blood conversion array. Immediately, blood and chi surged into the sky. Their cultivation was much stronger than Yan Li's, so the power of their chi and blood was more majestic. The blood conversion array was originally used by devil cultivators, so it was strange that it was like this. Long Chen smiled coldly. He hid in the surroundings with Yanli and paid close attention to the changes in their surroundings. Finally, after waiting for an hour, they finally felt a cold aura appear. Long Chen's figure trembled, and his hair stood on end. He looked up and saw a blood-red bat. When it spread its wings, it was about 100 feet long. It emitted a disgusting smell of blood and was incomparably evil. Hey, there's even a small blood demon. You're quite lucky, kid. Long Mu actually noticed it and explained to Long Chen. After several large-scale battles to exterminate the blood demons, I thought they were extinct. I didn't expect there to be some left. Although they're not purebred, their bloodline is quite high. Tsk, TSK. Hongmeng Chaotic Prime Level 5. Kid, take care of it. This is a great opportunity for you. The blood demons were also one of the Hongmeng monsters. However, their existence was hated by the Hongmeng monsters and Hongmeng creatures. This was because they did not rely on the power of Hongmeng to cultivate. Instead, they cultivated by devouring the blood of others. Their notoriety spread far and wide. Therefore, in the ancient times, the blood demons had disappeared after several large-scale slaughters. Many people thought that they had gone extinct. However, they saw them in the periphery of the martial ancestor continent. Hongmeng Level 5. Are you trying to kill me? I can't beat it. Longchen was discouraged. If it was a Hongmeng Chaotic Prime Level 4, he could challenge it. However, it was basically impossible for him to defeat a Level 5. Give it a try. You're the nemesis of the blood demons. With the suppressive effect of the celestial crystal stone, it won't be difficult to kill this guy. Longmu was still trying to persuade him patiently. At the same time, he also knew that the trap set by Scarface and the others was the celestial crystal stone. It contained the pure power of light and was very precious. However, it was indeed the nemesis of the blood demons. It had a strong suppressive effect on their ain and evil bloodlines. Chapter 1449. On its nemesis. Longchen was a little curious. He didn't know why Longmu would say such a thing. When Longmu saw that Longchen had fallen into his trap, he explained to him, "Your heavenly dragon vein is extremely young. Your moves are the biggest impact on it. The celestial stone should be able to suppress its strength to the early stage of the fourth stage of the chaotic prime realm in Hongmeng. Also, with the suppression of your heavenly dragon vein, it's not impossible to kill this big bat." After listening to Longmu's bewitching words, Longchen actually nodded and agreed with him. A Hongmeng monster beast at the fifth stage of the chaotic prime realm? Yanli was frightened by his own gaze and hurriedly pulled Longchen away. "Brother Longchen, it's too dangerous. We have to leave now. This monster beast can't rest now. We have to run now. Otherwise, it's not certain what will happen next," Yanli said, only to find that Longchen was staring at the blood demon with a determined expression. His heart skipped a beat, and he said, "Brother Longchen, you're not thinking of killing this Hongmeng monster beast, are you?" "Why not?" Longchen said with a smile. The dragon halberd appeared in his hand, and he said, "You leave here first." Yanli wanted to persuade him, but Longchen had already rushed out. His target was the blood demon. The dragon halberd flashed across the sky, shining brightly. Light surged under his feet, and he stepped on the position previously occupied by Scarface. Longchen's movements were very fast. In an instant, an array lit up, and an extraordinary sacred aura rose. The blood demon immediately realized the danger, but it was too late. The celestial stone floated in the void, and its aura fell. However, under this aura, a blood-red aura appeared on the blood demon's body. "Ah!" The blood demon screamed, his voice incomparably sharp. However, he was unable to break free from the celestial crystal. He knew that it was all a trap, and his strength was rapidly suppressed. He fell from the 5th level of Hongmeng to the 4th level of Hongmeng. However, the blood demon's narrow and sharp eyes were already fixed on Longchen. He shook his arms to stop himself from looking at the brilliance of the celestial crystals. With a whistling sound, it wanted to devour Longchen. Longchen was just an ordinary Hongmeng. How dare he plot against him? It flapped its wings and pounced. Longchen smirked coldly. His whole body surged with waves of brilliance. The dragon halberd fell into his hand. A golden brilliance emerged and turned into a barrier. As expected, the attack of the blood demon was shattered. He could really suppress the blood demon. Longchen breathed a sigh of relief. However, at that moment, he suddenly noticed that the blood demon's eyes were even crazier. It looked at Longchen with eyes full of desire, as if it wanted to devour him. What the hell is going on? Give me an explanation. Long Chen asked. He finally realized that something was wrong. Shouldn't it be fear? Why does this big bat seem to be getting more and more agitated? Long Mu's voice sounded with a bit of casualness. He said, "Oh, look at my memory. He's a great supplement for me, but you're also a great supplement for him. Little guy, do your best. Don't get eaten by the big bat." After saying that, he disappeared. No matter how much Long Chen called out, he would not appear. "Long Mu, you're a trap." Long Chen complained incessantly in his heart. He was actually tricked by this guy. Now that things had come to this, he had no other choice but to bite the bullet. The blood demon's voice was extremely sharp. At that moment, it ignored the suppression of the celestial stone and directly attacked Long Chen. Its huge wings covered the sky. However, Long Chen was not afraid. His entire body was surging with qi and blood. 2 golden dragons wandered in his eyes. His entire body was flickering with a faint golden light. The dragon halberd was shining brightly in the sky. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Although Long Mu was a trap, he was still clear about the major issues. He felt that if he could get rid of the blood demon, then he could definitely do it. The dragon halberd appeared in the void. 81 long halberd phantoms surrounded him, guarding his body. Long Chen laughed loudly. His eyes were cold. He looked at the blood demon and sneered, "Feathered beast, let's fight." The blood demon was extremely terrifying. Its aura was trembling, and the color of blood filled the air. It was as if it could cover the sky and the sun. However, Long Chen was not moved at all. He turned a deaf ear to the strong smell of blood. 81 long halberds broke through the sky and split into thousands of halberds, tearing the bloody sky apart. The blood demon was not to be outdone. Its aura fluctuated, and a sea of blood faintly appeared. It seemed as if millions of creatures were floating in it. It was incomparably evil. Long Chen's battle was very conservative. The battlefield was very advantageous to him. The blood demon would only become weaker. As long as the blood demon could hold on, he would definitely be the victor. "How much is my brother Long Chen hiding?" Yan Li's eyes flickered as he watched from the side. He had received a great blow to his heart. This guy was really unpredictable. Every time Yan Li thought he knew his opponent's true strength, he would soon reveal an even greater strength. Yan Li sighed, but his eyes soon lit up again. "I have to work hard too. My future goal will be brother Long Chen." Long Chen did not know that Yan Li had set a goal because of him. He was fighting happily with the blood demon. The fear in his heart gradually disappeared. Under the suppression of the celestial crystal, the blood demon's cultivation was only at the 4th stage of the chaotic prime realm in Hongmeng. However, Long Chen felt even more relaxed when facing the blood demon than when he faced the scarred face. The blood demon's secret techniques were all related to blood. However, in the environment of the celestial crystal, their power was greatly reduced. In addition, Long Chen's bloodline was pure and yang, so he was not afraid of the blood demon's evil light at all. Therefore, the final outcome of this battle was destined. Long Chen shook his head. His eyes flickered. In the beginning, the blood demon could still pose a threat to him. However, after half an hour, the blood demon could only bitterly hold on. Now, it was time to reap the harvest. The dragon halberd left his hand and Long Chen stepped on it. 81 halberds appeared behind him and a golden lotus bloomed in the void, enveloping the blood demon. Golden Lotus God-slaughtering array. The golden lotus bloomed and the blood demon roared miserably. The golden lotus God-slaughtering array was extremely harmful to the blood demon. The overwhelming righteous energy within it was the nemesis of these evil beings. The void around Long Chen shone brilliantly. The golden lotus withered and the blood demon's huge body disappeared into the void. Only a flashing red crystal was left floating in the void. "What is this?" Long Chen asked curiously as he held the crystal in his hand. Also, where was the blood demon's corpse? Where did it go? Chapter 1450. The blood-red crystal floated in Long Chen's hand, flashing with a demonic luster. Long Chen's eyes wandered as if he was thinking about something. "Put it away first. This thing will be of great use to you." Long Mu seemed too lazy to explain to Long Chen and said indifferently. Long Chen didn't want to dwell on this issue too much. With a wave of his hand, the blood-red crystal disappeared. He put it away. At this moment, Yanli came over. He was very tactful and didn't ask about the blood-red crystal. He was just shocked and said, "Brother Long Chen, how did you become so strong?" During the time that he and Long Chen had known each other, Long Chen's strength seemed to have advanced by leaps and bounds. In particular, in the past 10 days, Long Chen had been able to kill a Hongmeng 5th stage chaotic prime Hongmeng monster beast. Yanli would be lying if he said that he wasn't curious. "I was able to reach this step because of some opportunities," Long Chen said perfunctorily. He didn't want to talk about this kind of thing. He couldn't talk about the Dragon Palace and the inheritance of the Hongmeng Dragon Clan. Yanli didn't ask and just shook his head. He also knew that every cultivator had their own secrets and wouldn't tell others. He expressed his understanding that he wouldn't covet them. The battle here is so intense that it should attract a lot of attention. "Let's leave this place first." Yanli changed the topic. Long Chen and he quickly left this area. However, their actions were obviously lucky. Less than 10 minutes after they left, more than a dozen Hongmeng chaotic primes appeared. Each of them had the strength of a second-stage chaotic prime in Hongmeng. "Damn it, the blood demon crystal is related to our grand plan. Who took it away?" The leader's eyes were extremely sharp and a trace of hostility appeared between his eyebrows. A black aura descended and the vitality of the surrounding trees was instantly taken away. The dozen or so people behind him suddenly knelt down and said, "Lord Protector, this area should be under the jurisdiction of the whole Gale tribe." "Should we, the whole Gale tribe? How dare they ruin the Holy Lord's plans? Let's just destroy them." The Protector said calmly, as if destroying the whole Gale tribe was a trivial matter. Although he knew that the Gale tribe had no right to disobey them, they deserved to die for their incompetence. "Yes, Lord Protector." The dozen or so people immediately disappeared. As for the hair guard, he crouched down in front of the spot where the blood demon had perished. He picked up a chunk of soil and squeezed it between his fingers. "I don't care who stole the blood quintessence and interfered with the grand plan of the Holy Lord. That person deserves to die." He shook his head and said, "How strange. After the blood demon was killed, the aura of the blood crystal should be very dense. Why can't I chase after it?" Of course, he didn't know that Long Chen had the Dragon Palace. It was very easy for him to isolate the aura of the blood crystal. The Protector looked around and his eyes fell on the corpses of the whole Gale tribe members. With a wave of his hand, a black flame appeared and devoured the corpses completely. Then, he disappeared into the void. On the other side, Long Chen and Yanli didn't know what had happened. They had already returned to the rest of the team. After experiencing the effects of the elixir, their chi and blood had recovered quite a bit. Their aura had also begun to recover, especially the newcomers. After experiencing this ordeal, they had matured quite a bit. They looked at Long Chen with eyes full of gratitude. "Long Chen, you're back." The team members stood up and looked at the two of them. Long Chen just nodded. He found a quiet place to sit cross-legged and closed his eyes. Yanli knew that Long Chen had gone through 2 consecutive battles and needed a good rest. He stood at the side and began to guard him. Long Chen closed his eyes. His whole body was surging with brilliance. However, he didn't cultivate. Instead, he sank his consciousness into the Dragon Palace. His eyes flickered as he looked at Long Mu in front of him. "Why are you looking for me?" He did this because Long Mu had found him in advance and said that he had something to discuss with him. Long Mu still had a bit of a ruffian. He just waved his hand and the blood crystal fell into his hand. It shone with a demonic luster. He looked at Long Chen and said faintly, "Do you know why the blood demons went extinct in the Hongmeng Extreme Realm?" Long Chen was a little confused. He didn't hesitate to say, Isn't it because they ate the blood of living creatures and suffered the wrath of heaven and people? That's why they ended up like this in the end. However, Long Mu burst into laughter. Then, he looked up to the sky and roared. He seemed a little crazy. Then, he looked at Long Chen with unspeakable sarcasm in his eyes. Are you really too naive? Wrath of heaven and people? Violate the harmony of heaven and earth? These are just high-sounding excuses for their actions. In Long Mu's hand, the red crystal was shining brightly. Long Mu continued, in this world, there are countless evil cultivators who are tyrannical. Why don't we see the destruction of evil cultivators? There are also evil cultivators and ghost cultivators. How can there be so many of them and be so difficult to destroy? Compared to them, the blood demons only drink blood to cultivate. They are already too benevolent. How can they be destroyed? When Long Chen heard Long Mu's words, his heart trembled. He didn't know what Long Mu meant. He just sat down cross-legged and looked at Long Mu. Long Mu had calmed down a lot. The golden light shone brightly. In the end, endless divine light fell, and his face was reflected in the blood crystal. Long Mu spoke again. The reason why the blood demons were destroyed was because of the prophets. Because of that, the blood demon bloodline will congeal their life's blood energy into blood crystals. Furthermore, the power of blood crystals is incomparably pure, and to cultivators, it has enormous benefits. So, do you understand the reason? Long Mu suddenly looked at Long Chen. His eyes were like an abyss. Long Chen was stunned. He quickly understood something. A man's wealth was his own ruin. Perhaps it was because of their blood crystals that the blood demon clan had been wiped out. However, in the world of cultivation, the weak were prey to the strong. The blood demons were just not strong enough. That was why they were bullied by others. Long Mu also returned to normal. The blood crystal floated in front of him. Rays of light surged. An aura fell directly on his body and was absorbed by Long Chen. Chapter 1451. The matter of the blood demon clan has nothing to do with you, but the blood crystal is a good thing for you. The energy inside is extremely pure. You can absorb it directly without refining it. Moreover, the blood crystal won't affect your foundation at all. Therefore, you can use it with peace of mind, Long Mu said faintly. This is a blood crystal condensed from a blood demon at the 5th level of the chaotic prime realm in Hongmeng. It will greatly improve your 8th-division heavenly dragon technique. Long Mu couldn't help but sound a little envious. Even in the Hongmeng Dragon Clan, the Dragon Clan geniuses who cultivated the 8th-division heavenly dragon technique didn't have such a huge amount of resources like Long Chen. Although the Hongmeng Dragon Clan was powerful and had a deep foundation, it was impossible for them to take care of every genius. They only used medicinal herbs to establish their foundation at the very beginning. Later on, they didn't care about their cultivation at all. Therefore, even in the Hongmeng Dragon Clan, most of the geniuses who cultivated the 8th-division heavenly dragon technique relied on the most primitive method of absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. They weren't as extravagant as Long Chen. He had the blood essence and gallbladder of the Sanluo python. Now, he even had a blood crystal. He was really looking forward to seeing what level Long Chen could reach. Facing the blood crystal, Long Chen slowly closed his eyes. He separated a wisp of his aura and wrapped it around the blood crystal. The blood crystal floated above Long Chen's head without moving at all. Occasionally, a wisp of its aura would drop down. Why are you cultivating now? Why don't you take a look at where you are? Outside the Dragon Palace, Yanli looked at Long Chen and couldn't help but say. Now that they were in the wilderness, Long Chen was actually cultivating so boldly. What if he encountered an accident and went berserk? However, with his sharp spiritual sense, he could sense waves of energy surging in the air. Their target was Long Chen, who was sitting in the middle. A storm vaguely formed between heaven and earth with Long Chen as the center. Then, it completely enveloped him. Huzi, everyone, take care of him. Don't let anything happen to Long Chen. Everyone, "Guard him," Yanli said. The others also quickly ran away. The group of people had serious expressions as they guarded the surroundings, protecting Long Chen. Yanli looked at this scene and nodded with satisfaction. Obviously, the members of the hunting team had already approved of Long Chen from the bottom of their hearts. "Concentrate." Long Mu's voice exploded in Long Chen's mind. Long Chen's consciousness maintained its last trace of clarity in the vast ocean. The power contained within the blood crystal was simply too great. Even Long Chen had almost lost himself in it. In the Dragon Palace, Long Chen's body was wrapped in a faint brilliance. Suddenly, the blood crystal trembled and split into two halves. A majestic blood chi suddenly poured into Long Chen's body. It poured into his limbs and bones. Now, behind Long Chen, a faint shadow of his primordial spirit appeared. In the Dragon Palace, he was in a state between reality and illusion. Although he was only a body of consciousness, he could still summon his primordial spirit. Waves of blood chi rose, entangling the primordial spirit's shadow and gradually solidifying. Long Chen activated the 8 steps of Heavenly Dragon spell, gathering bursts of light. At this moment, his primordial spirit's shadow seemed to have turned into a bottomless pit. The blood chi surged, and finally, a faint golden light flickered. In the end, the golden light became brighter and brighter. A dragon's roar was heard, and a golden dragon was born from his primordial spirit. It circled around his body twice. The 5th part of the 8 steps of Heavenly Dragon spell. However, this was not the end. The power of the blood crystal was too great. Even though it had condensed into a golden dragon, it had only consumed about 1/3 of its power. Long Chen's body shook, and an inexplicable aura circulated. Golden light and blood chi appeared at the same time. Waves of brilliance surged around Long Chen's body, and once again, a small golden dragon was formed. The 6th part of the 8 steps of Heavenly Dragon spell. It was only a piece of blood crystal, but it had pushed his cultivation level up by 2 levels. After Long Chen stabilized his breath, he slowly opened his eyes. Long Mu was looking at him from the Dragon Palace. When he saw Long Chen's state, he casually snapped his fingers and said, "Not bad." However, the first 6 parts of the 8 steps of Heavenly Dragon spell are still relatively easy. The last 3 parts of the spell have already entered the later stage. If you want to make any more progress, you will need a terrifying amount of energy. Let me inform you in advance. Long Chen remembered his casual words. After sensing the surging power in his body, Long Chen's consciousness gradually returned to his body. Phew! Long Chen let out a long breath. When he opened his eyes, he saw that the members of the hunting team were guarding him meticulously. They did not relax at all. Only then did he remember how dangerous the place he was cultivating in was. He could not help but feel touched. Yanli was the first to notice the change in Long Chen. She noticed that Long Chen's temperament had become stronger, as if something had changed. However, Long Chen was already used to it. "Brother Long Chen, are you okay?" Yanli asked worriedly. Long Chen stabilized his breath, nodded and said, "I'm fine. Thank you for your help." When the others saw this, they sat down to rest. Long Chen had cultivated for a whole month, and they had been guarding him for a whole month. They were mentally exhausted. Only now could they have a good rest. However, none of them had any complaints. If it was not for Long Chen, they would have become a pile of bones by now. After resting for a day, Yanli and Long Chen set out again with the remaining 5 members of their hunting team to hunt evil beasts. The storage bags of the 5 people of the Gale tribe were also collected as trophies. In addition to Long Chen's breakthrough, they also began to go deeper into the magic crystal forest. However, they still stayed in the periphery and did not dare to go too deep. "Haha, this young wild boar is also dead. Quickly come down and deal with it. Over there, why are you guys so slow? Hurry up, get moving." A group of people were busy in the magic crystal forest. Long Chen was lying on a tree branch with a stalk of vanilla in his mouth. He seemed to be enjoying himself. However, no one dared to say anything because almost all the prey in the hunting team had been killed by him. Yanli sat on a branch not far from him and said, "Brother Longchen, how powerful are you?" Hongmeng's chaotic prime realm. Chapter 1452. Some of the unexpected gains of the hunting team, such as their beast essences and the heavenly treasures that they were guarding, were all accepted by the hunting team members by default. It could be considered an unspoken rule of the hunting team that they would not hand them over. However, Longchen was very interested in these things. Hence, he handed them over to the hunting team. As a result, under the nourishment of these Hongmeng beasts, the hunting team members' physiques were also becoming stronger. There was even an old hunting team member who successfully condensed his primordial spirit and stepped into the Hongmeng chaotic prime realm, although it was only the most ordinary Hongmeng chaotic prime realm. Longchen's prestige in the hunting team was like the sun in the sky. He was much more prestigious than Yanli, the captain. However, at this moment, Longchen's gaze suddenly became sharp. The halberd flew across the sky and directly pierced through a certain tree. The remains of the tree and the soil burst out. Longchen's gaze was sharp, and the aura around him surged. His figure had already disappeared. He landed on the ground and the halberd turned into a stream of light that fell into his hand. He pointed to the front and said, "Who are you?" The others were also on guard. They took out their weapons and were on guard. When the smoke and dust in front of them dissipated, they saw a man covered in scars. Many parts of his body were badly mutilated. It was obvious that he had gone through a fierce battle. When they saw the appearance of the person, they were shocked. "Uncle Hey! Why are you here?" Yanli could not help but exclaim. This person was obviously a member of the Yan tribe. Longchen had even seen him before. It was the black-faced man that Longchen had approached when he was inspecting the children's cultivation at the school field. However, why did he become like this? Did he encounter something? After seeing Longchen and the others, the black-faced man seemed to have used up all his strength and fainted. "Huzi, quickly find a place to heal Uncle Hey." Longchen immediately ordered people to find a safe place to settle him down. Then, he took out a pill from Longmu's hand and stuffed it into his mouth to heal him. However, Uncle Hei's injuries were simply too severe. His internal organs were all shattered. Who knew how many of his bones were broken? It was an unimaginable fortune for him to be able to survive. After checking on Uncle Hei's condition, Longchen's gaze became incomparably sharp. Yanli's expression was somewhat fake. He clenched his fists tightly and looked at Uncle Hei, who was lying unconscious on the ground. His expression was one of grief and indignation. "Who is it? Who was it that dared to be so ruthless?" Longchen shook his head. Uncle Hei seemed to be thinking about something. His aura was in a mess, and his vitality was greatly damaged. However, the thing that was truly fatal to him was the energy that was devouring his vitality. It was something that left him helpless. After a long time, Uncle Black slowly woke up. However, his face was filled with grief and indignation. "Dead. All of them are dead." Longchen realized something and quickly asked, "Uncle Hei, what's going on? What happened? Who died?" "Dead. All of them are dead." Uncle Hei's expression was somewhat deranged. He kept repeating this sentence. When he raised his head and saw Yanli and the others, he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He was about to faint again. Fortunately, Longchen rescued him. Uncle Hei's condition improved a lot. At least, he didn't seem deranged. He looked at the familiar people around him and couldn't help but cry bitterly. "Dead. Everyone in my team is dead. Only I managed to escape," Uncle Hei said. His voice was filled with indescribable grief. According to Uncle Black, his original team was ambushed by a team of terrifying experts. They were all captured and subdued. After that, they were captured along with the rest of the team members. The rest of the team members were all tortured to death by letting out their blood. Only Uncle Hei had used a secret technique to erupt his strength. He had burned his cultivation and escaped. After listening to Uncle Hay's narration, the group of people looked at each other in dismay. This encounter was too similar to theirs. Could it be a conspiracy of the whole Wind Tribe? However, the whole Wind Tribe didn't seem to be able to trigger such a crazy operation. In other words, someone was behind this. A big game of chess. In this magic crystal forest, there was definitely more than one blood demon here. There must be some force that was making a move on the blood demon. Long Chen's expression suddenly became serious. After saying all this, Uncle Hay seemed to have completed an important task. He lost all his strength and lay down. You must inform the chief. Be careful. I'll go first. Let's take a step and see my comrades. Uncle Hay's injuries were extremely serious. He had been able to hold on until now because of that secret technique in Long Chen's elixir. Now that the strength in his heart had dissipated, he naturally lost all his strength. He directly fell down. His eyes were dim. What should we do? Yenli looked at Long Chen. Although he was the leader of the entire hunting team in name, no matter what, he had to get Long Chen's approval first. Long Chen's terrifying aura circulated around him, but it quickly disappeared. He said, "Everyone, be prepared. We may be in danger from now on." Long Chen smelled a sense of danger. They had met such people twice. They definitely couldn't say anything. Since those people had made a move, they definitely wouldn't let it go. They might even be planning some shocking scheme. They were really in danger now. Yenli was also very nervous. They had already gained enough, so they could temporarily relax about hunting. They entered a message into the token, explaining the cause and effect of the incident. They also informed the other tribes of the Yan tribe to be careful. This token also had a communication function. After doing all this, their eyes flashed. They looked around. Everyone remained solemn and looked at Uncle Hay. Long Chen sighed and said, "Now that things have come to this, let's first preserve Uncle Hay's body." The group of people took care of Uncle Hay's body. Yenli looked at Long Chen and said, "Brother Long Chen, what should we do now?" Long Chen looked around. They had been hunting for a total of 2 years. Long Chen looked at the hunting team behind him and said, "Now that things have come to this, we can only find other teams to join up with." After all, this kind of thing had happened. They felt like there was a knife at their back. They didn't have the mood to continue hunting. "As you wish." Yenli agreed with Long Chen's decision. They checked out the nearest team, and the group of people quickly rushed over. Chapter 1453. The magic crystal forest was incomparably huge, and the outer area was boundless. Even the nearest team was far from them, and they would need about 10 days to reach there. It was night, and Long Chen was resting. A bonfire was lit in the campsite, and a group of people surrounded it. They were all silent, and it was obvious that what happened today had a huge impact on them. Yenli leaned against Long Chen and couldn't help but ask, "Brother Long Chen, what kind of power do you think is behind this?" Although the Gale tribe was also a high-level tribe, it obviously couldn't achieve such a situation. The celestial crystals and the blood transformation formation were obviously not things that they could have. Considering Uncle Hay's case, this was definitely not a coincidence. There must be an invisible hand manipulating everything behind his back. "I hope we're overthinking," Long Chen said lightly. However, his eyes were filled with caution that had condensed into frost. This matter was obviously premeditated, and they were just involved in it, using the flesh and blood of living creatures to attract the blood demons. Only the cultivators of the demon sect would do such a thing. For a moment, Long Chen only felt complicated. He also received the news of Uncle Hay's death, and he felt suffocated. "Little guy, be careful. There are people around who are plotting against you." Long Mu suddenly reminded Long Chen. Long Chen suddenly became nervous and looked around. His eyes were sharp, like a sharp sword that was about to be unsheathed. Yenli was stunned by Long Chen's sudden change. He asked, "Brother Long Chen, what are you doing? There's killing intent. Prepare for battle. Longchen said directly. They hit it well, and even he didn't sense it. It was all thanks to Long Mu's reminder. In the next moment, 3 black-clothed figures appeared, and the sharp swords in their hands shone under the moonlight. The 3 people's sword chi swept out, and instantly drowned the entire campsite. Longchen held his dragon halberd, and a golden light flashed, turning into a barrier that destroyed all the sword chi. Yanli held his long saber, and purple chi came from the east, and lightning flashed, destroying the sword chi. The sword chi shattered, and except for Longchen and Yanli, who were prepared, everyone else fell to the ground, unconscious. The 2 stood side by side, and looked at the 3 black-clothed people in front of them. Their auras collided, and their battle intent rose. Who are you? Why are you attacking us? Yanli roared, and his long saber glowed with light. Longchen and Longchen. There were 3 Hongmeng Chaotic Prime, and 2 Hongmeng Chaotic Primes. Down. We can't ruin Sir Holy Master's plan. The captain said directly, and there was no change in his eyes. Longchen and Yanli were just 2 Hongmeng realm cultivators, and they could be easily dealt with. The 2 black-clothed people under him looked at each other and stepped out. Sword chi flashed, and their black bodies seemed to blend into the night. Longchen's dragon halberd shook, and Yanli's lightning covered his body. They each found their opponents. With the dragon halberd in hand, Longchen roared, and 81 halberd phantoms appeared behind him, turning into a divine array, and locked his target in it. Divine light flashed, sharp and boundless, and each of the halberd phantoms pierced through the void. The divine sword enveloped the black-clothed man. Not good. The black-clothed man realized how terrifying Longchen was. It was far beyond his realm. Captain, save me. In just an instant, he was drowned by the halberd. Just as his cry for help was heard, he fell to the ground. His body was broken, and he died without a complete corpse. He raised his hand, and the halberd rushed towards Yanli's direction again, helping him to get rid of his opponent. All of this took a long time to describe, but it all happened within 10 breaths. Even the captain of the black-clothed men couldn't react in time, and his 2 subordinates were already dead. Longchen and Yanli looked at each other, and surrounded the captain. Who are you? The captain was now full of fear towards the 2 of them, but he still maintained his arrogant attitude. Ants. You dare to kill the holy disciples of our sect, you deserve to die. I see that you have an amazing physique, and your cultivation is not bad. I can pardon your crimes, and you can join our sect. How about it? The black-clothed man's tone was a little crazy, and he actually started to rope in Longchen and Yanli. Longchen just smiled coldly. He really didn't know where the black-clothed man got the courage to ask him to admit his mistake, as if joining their sect was a very important thing. With the halberd in his hand, he locked onto the captain, and repeated, Don't give me those fake and real words, tell me. Who are you? What is your purpose? The captain's black robe fluttered, and waves of black gas appeared around his body, merging with the darkness. If it wasn't for the fact that they could still sense his aura, they would have thought that he didn't exist at all. He completely ignored Longchen's words, and said in a voice that seemed to come from the depths of hell, I forgive your offense once again. As long as you join our sect, and submit to the Holy Master, we can live on the martial ancestor continent, and completely break away from the periphery. Aren't you excited about the martial ancestor continent? Longchen shook his head. This black-clothed man was most likely a lunatic. The holy sect was probably a place that specialized in brainwashing. He and Yanli looked at each other, and their halberds flashed. Right now, they had to subdue this black-clothed man first. Of course, with their combined strength, it wouldn't be too difficult to capture him alive. Blasphemer of the holy sect. Die! The captain suddenly shouted, and the black aura even spread to his sword, disappearing into the darkness. A dragon halberd phantom appeared, wanting to pierce his forehead, but unfortunately, the captain's eyes were filled with disdain. He raised his hand, and a black flame appeared, burning the dragon halberd phantom into nothingness. Such strong corrosiveness. Long Chen suddenly became cautious, and a faint brilliance surged all over his body. He looked at Yanli. "Yanli, be careful. Leave him to me, his attacks are very strange." If this flame touched Yanli, he would probably be burned to ashes in a matter of minutes. Yanli nodded and retreated to the core of the battlefield. It would be too difficult for him to participate in the battle between Hong Meng's third-stage chaotic primes. Long Chen said indifferently, staring coldly at the captain. The dragon halberd shone like the sun, as if it had come alive. It roared and whistled, as if it was going to swallow the captain directly. Chapter 1454. Long Chen's eyes were cold as he looked at the captain in front of him. He had now completely turned into darkness and blended into one with the surrounding environment. "I'll give you one last chance. Submit to the majesty of the Holy Lord. Otherwise, you can only blame me for being ruthless." The captain's voice was extremely vicious. It did not sound like the voice of a human at all. Long Chen frowned. His eyes flickered and a faint brilliance appeared. Streams of aura surrounded him. A primordial spirit appeared behind him and merged with him. He raised his temperament to the extreme. When the captain saw this, he knew what Long Chen was thinking. He knew that he was afraid that he could no longer subdue these two people. Since that was the case, he could only choose to destroy them. "Come and try if you have the ability. Do you really have the qualifications to say such words now?" Long Chen's eyes were extremely sharp. The dragon halberd trembled, his tiger body shook, and his blood and chi vibrated. The blood crystal came from the blood demon. It was the source of blood and chi. Not only did it increase his cultivation, but it also increased the quality of his body and the strength of his flesh. It was an unprecedented increase. In an instant, he raised his hand. His blood and chi surged. Long Chen's fingers moved and the dragon halberd fell into his hand. His whole body surged with rays of light and directly rushed forward. The captain raised his hand and the black sticky day was like a monster spurting out. It was a sticky substance. The dragon halberd was mighty, tearing everything apart. After Long Chen had raised the 8th-division heavenly dragon spell to a certain level, he had never fought to his heart's content. This guy just happened to give him such a chance. The viscous black aura turned into a rain of bullets, charging at Long Chen from all directions. However, Long Chen's eyes flickered, and he did not care at all. His dragon halberd vibrated, and waves of light surged. 81 dragon halberd phantoms spiraled behind him, emitting a terrifying aura. Shinfu. The golden brilliance and the black bullet rain collided. The bullet rain had a terrifying corrosive effect. The halberd shadows that Long Chen had created were corroded and the radiant halberd looked mottled. The bullet rain and the dragon halberd shadows completely collapsed at this moment. Layers of waves rippled in the night sky. The battle between them was really too terrifying. The surrounding 100 feet had been completely razed to the ground. Countless demonic beasts wailed and kept moving outwards. Retreat. They also knew that they could not afford to offend these two people, so they could only choose to retreat. After laughing, they were evenly matched. Long Chen laughed loudly. He had finally found an evenly matched opponent. How could he give up at this moment? He raised his hand and the dragon halberd landed in his hand. His entire body surged with a terrifying aura. Symbols intertwined around him, and specks of divine light drooped down. He took a step forward, and the dragon halberd opened and closed, pressing forward courageously. The team leader had also realized that Long Chen was difficult to deal with. He no longer underestimated his opponent. A black halo appeared in his hand and turned into a long staff. However, the staff was completely black and seemed to be able to devour even light. Die! Anyone who blasphemes the Holy Lord deserves to die. The captain roared, and the long staff instantly became extremely huge. A strange aura lingered around it, as if 10,000 ghosts were crying and laughing. It was wrapped in a powerful force and smashed down on Long Chen. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Long Chen's dragon halberd left his hand. It was as if a real dragon was born, and the dragon roared. Light flickered, and a terrifying aura spread out. Long Chen's figure also arrived at this moment. 6 golden dragons merged into his body, and his aura suddenly soared. He took a step forward and grabbed the dragon halberd that had left his hand. At the same time, he muttered, "Golden Lotus God-killing formation." A golden brilliance appeared in the void. Even in the pitch-black sky that was under the captain's control, a golden brilliance appeared faintly. Countless rays of golden light converged, faintly forming a budding golden refinement flower. Even in Hong Meng's mixed yuan technique, there were different levels. The Golden Lotus God-killing formation could definitely be said to be one of the best. How could a technique that could be brought into Longmu by the Hong Meng Dragon Clan be ordinary? After completing the cultivation of the 6th supplement of the 8th Division Heavenly Dragon spell, Long Chen's understanding of the Hong Meng's mixed yuan technique had deepened. "Now, I'll let you have a taste of this move of mine. It's brand new. You should be proud." Long Chen opened his mouth, and it was as if a god had descended. A lotus bloomed, and the petals of the golden lotus fell inch by inch. Every withered petal actually formed a new lotus in the void. For a moment, Long Chen stepped forward, and golden lotuses bloomed around him. What kind of power is this? How is this possible? The dragon halberd shuttled through the golden lotus. The team leader's expression changed. He could feel that his power was gradually disintegrating in this golden aura. How is this possible? This is the power bestowed by the Holy Lord. The team leader's eyes were filled with disbelief, and he continued to roar crazily. The black aura floated and faintly transformed into a human figure. 3 primordial spirits appeared behind him, but they were incomparably black, and their appearances could not be seen clearly. It was obvious that they had been eroded by the black aura. The primordial spirits trembled and merged into the team leader's body. "You won't have a chance." Long Chen had already noticed his actions and said lightly. In his opinion, the outcome of this battle had already been decided. He only saw Long Chen raise his hand, and the golden lotus suddenly began to spiral. Waves of golden brilliance fell, and waves of aura surged, enveloping the team leader's body. The team leader's body was completely enveloped. Long Chen said lightly, "Golden Lotus God-killing formation. Destruction of all lives." At this moment, the Golden Lotus God-killing formation finally began to release its God-killing light. A wave of divine light swept across, like a sun, and it was incomparably hot. Dozens of golden lotuses exploded around him, and waves of light surged. The divine light of heaven and earth trembled. Long Chen's eyes flickered, and the dragon halberd in his hand shuttled through the formation. He had to ensure that nothing went wrong. "I can't accept this. Holy Lord. I'll go first." The team leader's miserable voice was heard, and it was filled with endless sorrow. "Brat, don't be so arrogant. The Holy Lord will avenge me," the team leader said, and there was a hint of determination in his voice. Under the explosion of the Golden Lotus God-killing formation, he would definitely die. However, Long Chen's eyes flickered, and he said, "You wanna die? Have you asked for my permission?" His physical body was crushed and destroyed without any suspense, but his soul was pulled over by a magical force and disappeared. All of this happened too quickly, and no one noticed it at all. Chapter 1455. Brother Long Chen, you're really a god. Yin Li really didn't know how to describe Long Chen. Long Chen's speed of improvement was simply unimaginable. He had completely given up on the idea of catching up. Long Chen only smiled. He looked at the situation around him and said, "I have a feeling that this matter is definitely not as simple as we think." Yin Li nodded. From the captain's words just now, he had obtained some information. What holy lord and what holy sect? He didn't know what their grand plan was. If I'm not wrong, the ones who killed Uncle Hay are these guys. Yanli gritted his teeth. In the Hongmeng tribes, they were simple and honest, and they valued relationships the most. On the wounds of Uncle Hei's corpse, there were wounds with that kind of black aura. From this, it could be seen that even if it wasn't this team that killed Uncle Hei and the others, it would be another team. Longchen just shook his head. His eyes were cold as he said, "The dead are already dead. Let go." He patted Yanli's shoulder and quickly left this place. The commotion here was too big. It wouldn't be good if it attracted the attention of others. At the same time, in a cave in the magic crystal forest, the protector was sitting on the corpse of a huge Hongmeng demon beast. He was playing with a blood-red crystal in his hand. What else could it be if it wasn't a blood crystal? "Protector, bad news." At this moment, a hurried voice suddenly came from outside the door. The protector's eyes were cold. "If your information doesn't satisfy me, I'll sacrifice you to the honorable Holy Lord." That person crawled on the ground and trembled. "Protector. Captain Mo and the others' life cards are broken." A cultivator's aura was stored in the life card. When the life card was broken, it meant that the cultivator was dead. Captain Mo, even among his subordinates, was ranked in the top 3 in terms of strength. Who was it that killed him? The protector opened his eyes and was surprised. However, he quickly regained his calmness. He shook his head and said, "All right, I understand. You may leave." He waved his hand and said indifferently, "It's just 2 people who died. Get out of here." Although Captain Mo's strength was not bad, a dead person obviously had no value. The protector shook his head and said, "Captain Mo, you really disappoint me." There was even a hint of regret in his tone. Death, he had seen too much. It wasn't that he felt sorry for Captain Mo's departure, but that without such a helper, the next operation would be very difficult. He stood up and looked in a certain direction. He rubbed his neck and said, "Looks like I have to speed up. I wonder how the pigs in the outer area are being dealt with." His figure changed and then disappeared from the cave. The Hongmeng demonic beast under him gradually turned into stone. Then, it collapsed and merged with the earth. Longchen and Yanli led the team members and left. They found a cave and finally stopped. After arranging the night watch, Longchen entered the Dragon Palace immediately. At this moment, other than him and Long Mu, there was another figure in the Dragon Palace. He looked exactly like the captain just now. This was the captain's soul. At the moment when he was about to be killed, Long Mu brought him down. He was brought to the Dragon Palace. "Where's this place?" The captain seemed to be at a loss. He wanted to attack, but he couldn't grab anything. Long Mu looked at him mockingly. He had already completely trapped the captain's body. He smiled coldly and said, "Here? This is hell." Longchen approached them step by step. He glanced at Long Mu and asked, "Have you found anything? Brat, do you think that you can order me around just because I recognized you as my master? It's already good enough that I can help you bring his soul over." "Don't push your luck," Long Mu said. Longchen shook his head. As expected, this was Long Mu's character. However, the captain recognized Longchen in an instant. He immediately became agitated and wanted to subdue Longchen. Longchen only sneered. His entire body was burning with a terrifying brilliance. Rays of light surged and caught the captain in his hand. His voice was as cold as ice. "Here! This is my territory." He had absolute control over the Dragon Palace. Killing a captain was as simple as eating and drinking. The captain fell to the ground. He was only left with his soul. He was surprised to find that his soul was incomparably illusory, just like a mortal. This was all intentional by Longchen. He wouldn't let the captain mess around in his Dragon Palace. Then, he erased his cultivation and left only the most primitive soul. Although this was difficult, it wasn't a problem for the dragon's tomb. "What do you want to do?" The captain was really scared and kept retreating. Longchen suddenly squatted down and pulled the captain in front of him. He said, "I want to know everything about your saint sect. Even if I die. I won't betray the great saint sect. Just kill me. I will never submit. The captain roared. Even now, he was still as mad as ever. However, Longchen had already thought of this. He looked at Longmu and said, "You should have torture tools here, right?" As expected, Longmu laughed and said, "There are many treasures in Longmu. Torture tools, you can have as many as you want." Even among the Hongmeng dragon clan, there were many clans that were good at killing. Naturally, there were various torture tools in Longmu. Longmu. You are that person. The captain became excited when he heard the words Dragon's Tomb. Now, the most sensational event in the entire Hongmeng extreme realm was the appearance of the tomb of the Hongmeng dragon clan. However, if he came, he disappeared quickly. Everyone thought that it was lost again. Who would have thought that it would appear here? How could the captain not be excited? As long as he could spread the news, the reward he would get would be more than he could spend in his lifetime. However, he quickly became gloomy. Since Longchen had exposed so much in front of him, it was likely that Longchen, no matter how much he wanted to letting him leave this place or do something else, he realized that it was a shocking secret. What could he do? He had no power at all. Saint Sect leader Longchen looked at him indifferently and said, "Your only choice is to tell me everything you know. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead." This Saint Sect had killed many living beings and even caused the deaths of Uncle Hay and the rest. No matter what, he would not have a good ending. Longchen's hand flashed and a set of silver needles appeared in his hand. Spirit needles. It's extremely destructive to the soul. You should be careful when using it. It won't be good if you kill him. Longmu said from the side, but he had no intention of persuading the captain. Longchen's mind moved and a spirit needles appeared in front of him. He looked at the captain and asked, "Are you really not going to tell me?" The captain knew that he would die no matter what, so he was willing to keep quiet. He only sneered and closed his eyes. It was just a small spirit needles. What could it do? Longchen shook his head. His eyes flashed and he looked at the captain. He sighed and said, "You asked for it." With a wave of his hand, the spirit needles pierced through the air and pinned the captain's soul in the void. The spirit needles could be seen clearly in his soul, rippling with layers of ripples. At this moment, the captain roared and curled up on the ground. He kept rolling on the ground and his face was filled with pain. He was in extreme pain and his soul felt like it was being torn apart. "Ah! What did you do to me?" The captain's eyes were red. It was obvious how much pain he was in. Longchen looked at him without any fluctuation in his eyes. He said indifferently, "Are you willing to tell me now?" A spirit needles appeared in his hand again. His eyes flashed and he smiled faintly. In the captain's eyes, this expression was no different from the devil's. His soul was trembling, but he still gritted his teeth and persisted. "Grandpa will not admit defeat. The Saint Sect is eternal. Long live the Holy Lord." Longmu shook his head and said, "Why bother? TSK, TSK, TSK. Seems like this Saint Sect has no other skills except for brainwashing." Longchen did not hesitate at all as he inserted another spirit needles into his soul. "You said it yourself. You can't blame anyone else." "Ah!" The captain roared again, filled with endless pain. His soul trembled and became even more illusory, as though it was being torn apart. He hugged his head and roared madly in the Dragon Palace. Longchen looked at him quietly and restrained his movements. "Do you still want to continue?" He appeared to be very calm. Although the spirit needles could only be used once, he had plenty of them. Furthermore, with the Dragon Palace guarding, he would never be able to destroy the captain's soul. At most, he would waste a few more spirit needles. As long as he got what he wanted, everything would be worth it. "You are a demon." The captain's soul was changing. It was unknown whether it was fear or the after-effects of the spirit needles. "So, do you still want to be a tough nut to crack?" A spirit needles appeared between Longchen's fingers again, shining brightly. The captain's eyes were filled with fear. only those who had experienced the terror of the spirit needles would know. While it destroyed one's soul, it also kept one's mind clear, making the pain even more painful. He definitely did not dare to endure it a third time. What do you want to know? The captain finally breathed a sigh of relief. Now, he only wanted Longchen to kill him after he finished asking. Now, death had become his extravagant wish. Longchen put away the spirit needles. Why didn't you say so earlier? Answer me, what is the Saint Sect? And what is your plan? The captain's eyes were filled with confusion. He was like a walking corpse. Whatever Longchen asked, he would answer, the Saint Sect is the name of our organization. According to the captain's explanation, Longchen understood that the Saint Sect was originally a small organization at the edge of the Martial Ancestor continent, the center of the Martial Ancestor polar region. However, an organization that could gain a foothold on the Martial Ancestor continent could easily destroy the strongest tribes in the periphery. This was because the minimum requirement to gain a foothold on the Martial Ancestor continent was to have a Hongmeng Consolidation Realm powerhouse. However, later on, the Hongmeng Consolidation Realm powerhouse of the Saint Sect was killed in a battle. When the disciples of the Saint Sect heard the news, they brought the foundation of the Saint Sect to the periphery and supported some tribes as puppets so that they could one day return to the Martial Ancestor continent. We are doing this to restore the glory of the Saint Sect. The captain's voice trembled. However, there was no spirit at all. Long Mu sneered at the side. Restore the glory of a small thing like this? I could kill hundreds of such small forces with a raise of my hand back then. Longchen ignored Long Mu and continued to ask, what is your purpose in appearing in the magic crystal forest? Blood crystals. The captain said. What do you want the blood crystals for? Longchen asked. The captain explained everything in detail. Their holy master, who was the current leader of the Saint Sect, had reached the peak of the Hongmeng 9th stage chaotic prime realm and was about to step into the Hongmeng consolidation realm. However, this last step could block him for countless years. Coincidentally, the Holy Master learned that there were descendants of the Blood Devil clan hiding in the magic crystal forest. He wanted to use the blood crystals condensed by the Blood Devil clan to break through and increase his cultivation to take the last step. In order to attract the Blood Devils, they naturally needed a lot of sacrifices. Therefore, they supported a large number of tribes to capture hunters in the magic crystal forest and let them bleed to attract the Blood Devils. Uncle Hayes told him everything he knew that were murdered. Longchen's eyes became more and more solemn. Longchen was furious and clenched his fists. He was not afraid of the others. Although the cultivation world followed the law of the jungle, there were also rules. He was not summoning the innocent with something only the demon path would do. Longchen spoke again. The Saint Sect was a malignant for a while. He asked, in how many blood crystals do you need? It seemed that this was the leader behind the According to the Holy Church's investigation, he suppressed the anger in his heart and continued to ask, groups. How many people did the Saint Sect arrange in the magic crystal forest this time? How strong Master needs a terrifying number of blood crystals to break through. Each group has 3 people. He needs 999 blood crystals to form the Yuan blood array to help him break through in one go. Every member is at the Hongmeng first stage chaotic prime realm and revealed everything that is comparable to the Hongmeng second stage chaotic prime realm. He raised his hand and directly grabbed the captain's chaotic prime realm. He was useless now. As for the protector, Longchen exerted some force and destroyed his soul. Who escaped from the Martial Ancestor leader revealed a relieved smile and disappeared. His cultivation is unfathomable. Fused into the Dragon Palace. He is at least at the Hongmeng 7th stage became stronger. As for the protector, did not notice this. We only know that he is an expert who escaped from the Martial Ancestor when he opened his eyes with the Holy Master, he found that Yenli and the others cultivation is unfathomable. Longchen could not help but be curious. 7th stage chaotic prime realm. Yenli, what are you doing? Yenli noticed that Longchen had woken up. He looked over and smiled bitterly. Brother Longchen, you're awake. The team members beside him were almost done packing. Captain, we're done packing. We're ready to set off. Set off? Where are you going now? Longchen seemed to have realized something and asked immediately. Yenli smiled bitterly and said, it's nothing. The Demon Crystal Forest has not been peaceful recently. Father has already sent us the news. He's now preparing for us to retreat and hunt in other places. Obviously, the Holy Church was too much of a threat to them, so they were preparing to leave. The Holy Church was too powerful. He could do nothing about it, so Xiaoya's only choice was to leave. "Brother Longchen, let's leave together," Yanli said to Longchen. However, Longchen shook his head and said, "I want to stay here for a while." Yanli looked into Longchen's eyes and understood something. He shook his head and didn't say anything. He patted his shoulder and said, "Brother Longchen, you have to be careful." Yanli also knew that Longchen had made up his mind. Even though he wanted to stay and help Longchen, he also knew that with his strength, he wouldn't be able to help much. Instead, he would only be a burden. Longchen had stayed behind because he wanted to kill those guys. However, this kind of challenge was too dangerous. He was not qualified to participate at all. "I'll keep your life jade for you." Yanli patted Longchen's shoulder, reminiscing about the past. "Can't you have some good stuff?" Longchen said. Yanli really didn't know how to talk. He only knew how to talk nonsense. Yanli laughed and gave Longchen a hug. "We'll wait for you to come back." As he spoke, he waved his arm and called out. A group of people gathered around and left Longchen with their backs to him. Then, they gradually disappeared. "Longchen, you're all alone now. If you really die, I'm afraid there won't be anyone to collect your corpse." Long Mu's voice sounded out. Longchen couldn't help but want to hit him. Longchen shook his head. This guy was always so frivolous. A ray of light appeared in his hand and finally condensed into a small golden formation. It gathered into a small golden ball. Some runes could be faintly seen flickering and a few light dots appeared. "If I'm not wrong, these light dots are the positions of the other teams," Longchen said. He had obtained these things from the captain. They used these things to communicate with each other. Their methods were indeed much more profound than those in the outer area. He looked at one of the light dots and nodded slowly. He had now chosen a target. "It's you." Longchen looked at the light dot closest to him. Now, he didn't need to care about other things. He didn't need to care about some methods. He just smiled and his body surged with light. The faint brilliance surged and his figure changed as he shuttled through the forest. His journey of revenge had already begun. Somewhere in the magic crystal forest, 3 figures shrouded in black brilliance looked down at the group of people below with cold eyes. "Captain Lu, the sacrifice is ready." A figure knelt down in front of him. He gave off the cultivation of a Hongmeng 3rd stage chaotic prime, but he knelt in front of the captain. Captain Lu's face was expressionless. He just nodded and said, "The great Holy Master will remember your piety. When the Holy Master ascends the world, you will be the first batch of believers. Follow us to the martial ancestor continent." The person who knelt down was excited. He was attracted by this thing. His eyes were full of excitement. "I'm willing to submit to the Holy Master and serve the Holy Master." Captain Lu nodded and looked at the dozen or so cultivators not far away. They had many holes in their bodies, but they were still alive. Blood kept flowing out of their wounds, and under the influence of the blood conversion array, they emitted a bloody mist. The smell of blood assailed his nostrils. Captain Lu's lips curled into a smile. Come, use your life to lay the foundation for our Holy Master's future. You are all heroes." "Ha ha ha." Captain Lu laughed. His whole body was filled with a black aura. It was exactly the same as the Captain Longchen had faced before. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept up between heaven and earth. A huge blood-red bat with a body size of 1,000 feet appeared. The blood demon roared. Its eyes were sharp, and a blood-red aura filled the air. Its aura was even more terrifying than the one Longchen had faced. Captain Lu roared. His eyes were burning. He raised his hand, and 3 celestial stones appeared. They vaguely formed an array. The brilliance floated, completely trapping the blood demon in it. The blood demon roared. Its body was burned by the celestial stones, and waves of blood-red aura surged. "Let's attack together. Kill this beast." Captain Lu raised his arm and shouted. He and the other 2 team members behind him appeared together. More than a dozen Hongmeng chaotic primes from the tribe under their control also attacked together at this moment. All kinds of extremely violent attacks came from all directions. They swept through the world like a torrent, completely drowning the blood demon. The blood demon roared continuously. It seemed to be completely enraged. It instantly rushed toward the crowd. Chapter 1458. At this moment, Longchen was hiding in the surrounding woods. He hid his aura and did not move at all. You've learned to be sinister. I'm very pleased. Longmu said in Longchen's mind. Longchen just smiled and said, Don't say that. I'm just waiting for the right time. He could tell that the blood demon was very powerful. There were also dozens of primordial chaos, 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 primordial chaos. In order to survive in the world of cultivation, it was necessary to weigh the pros and cons. He was not a fool. He knew best what was best for himself. I'm looking forward to seeing these guys work so hard only to benefit you. Ha ha. Long Chen's way of doing things was obviously very much in line with Long Mu's taste. He was in a good mood. Long Chen shook his head and said, Don't talk nonsense. I'm letting them live a little longer. It's a gift to them. Do you understand? In Long Chen's eyes, these guys all deserve to die. He was just using them to wear each other down. At the last moment, he would reap the fruits of victory. Long Mu did not speak. After a long time, he finally said, You brat, you're shameless enough. I like it. On the battlefield, the battle was already in full swing. Although the blood demon was suppressed by the 3 celestial stones, he was still aggressive. He was not inferior to the attacks of dozens of people. The blood demon was shrouded in a blood-red aura. He flapped his wings and stirred up a gust of wind. He suddenly roared and blood-red runes flashed. Several Hongmeng chaotic primes who could not dodge in time were hit by the runes. They instantly lost their vitality. Their blood was drawn out and turned into blood beads that were swallowed into the blood demon's stomach. This was not the end. The people who were killed by the blood demon did not fall. Their skinny bodies stood upright. Their eyes turned blood-red and they directly charged at their teammates. They were extremely barbaric and killed directly. Many people were frightened. What's going on? What is this feathered beast doing? Captain Lu cursed, because the blood demon's attack did not exist in the information he had obtained. Now, it had caused quite a commotion among the crowd. But even so, Captain Lu still roared, Don't be afraid. They were just a few walking corpses. Kill it. Only then did they reorganize themselves and besiege the few humans who were controlled by the blood demon. However, in this way, the pressure of besieging the blood demon was greatly reduced. The blood demon let out a sharp roar and charged at Captain Lu with its sharp claws. He also knew that Captain Lu was the key figure in this group of people. As long as he killed him, these people would collapse on their own. Not good. Captain Lu's expression changed drastically. If they were to fight head-on, he would not be a match at all. The black aura gushed out like a tide and turned into a figure of him. Captain Long Erliu had escaped from his original position, but the figure of him was torn into pieces by the blood demon. Interesting. This blood demon actually inherited the method of making blood puppets. TSK, TSK, TSK. These guys are in big trouble. Long Mu looked at all this and suddenly commented. Long Chen was interested. The more these people died, the less pressure he would face in the future. Naturally, he did not feel any heartache. He just asked, What is a blood puppet? Long Mu did not ridicule Long Chen, which was rare. He explained to him, the blood demon also has its own inheritance, but their inheritance depends on their bloodline. The blood puppet secret technique is one of them. As long as a creature is killed by the blood demon, it will become his puppet. The more people he kills, the more blood puppets there will be. In the past, when the blood demon was at its peak, even the masters of Hong Meng Yuan Jia died. This secret technique was so terrifying. It seemed that this time, Captain Lu and the others were really in danger. However, this had nothing to do with Long Chen. He was quietly watching the development of the situation. Captain Lu and the others had lost half of their people, and all the creatures who died had become blood puppets, crazily attacking their former companions. The blood puppets were extremely difficult to deal with. They were not afraid of death. Only when they were completely annihilated into nothingness could they be considered finished. Their encirclement was in imminent danger. Under such circumstances, Captain Lu no longer held back. The aura of his two teammates was connected to his aura, which made his aura increase a lot in an instant. The sticky black aura seemed to be condensing into a solid substance. After expending a great deal of effort and paying the price of almost all the primordial chaos, 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 primordial, even Captain Lu's team lost one person. Only then did the blood demon collapse with a miserable roar and turn into a blood-red crystal. I finally got it. Captain Lu's eyes were burning. He had sacrificed so much for this thing. However, his eyes flickered, and his whole body was filled with a tyrannical aura. He was also incomparably weak now, but at least his efforts had paid off. However, just as he reached out to touch the blood crystal, a ray of light suddenly bloomed in the void and enveloped the blood crystal. "Who is it? Come out!" Captain Lu roared angrily. He had sacrificed so much, but the fruits of his labor had been taken away. He almost lost his mind. Long Chen's figure gradually appeared in the void and landed on the ground. Chapter 1459. The surrounding figures all fell to the ground, even until they died. Their eyes were still filled with shock. The power that Long Chen had displayed was beyond their imagination. Long Chen's combat strength was unimaginable at the same level. "Who exactly are you?" Captain Lu's eyes were sharp as he asked. At the same time, he quietly took out a pill. He was killing time to recover from his injuries. However, he was becoming more and more curious about Long Chen's origin. The battle prowess that Long Chen had displayed had even caused him to raise his eyebrows. Even in the martial ancestor continent, Long Chen was known as a heavenly pride. He was definitely not a genius that could be nurtured in a barren place like the Outer Land. Long Chen took a step forward. His eyes flickered as he raised his dragon halberd and said, "You should thank me for allowing you to live for so long. Now, give me your life. We have no enmity between us. Why do you have to be so ruthless next time?" Captain Lu said. He did not have much energy left in his body. If he were to fight against Long Chen, he would definitely die. No enmity between us? Long Chen smiled coldly. He probably could not imagine the despair in the hearts of those who were treated as food. He raised his hand and the dragon halberd turned into a cold light. It directly pierced through Captain Lu's forehead and shattered his soul. Captain Lu's body fell to the ground. Long Chen was expressionless as he kept their space containers. He looked at the scene of devastation and waved his hand. Golden flames spurted out and burned all the corpses into nothingness. His figure also quickly disappeared from the spot. "Long Mu, can I still use the blood crystal?" Long Chen could not help but ask. The blood crystal had helped him push the 8-part heavenly dragon technique to the 6th part. Now that he had an even more powerful blood crystal, what level would it reach? Long Mu created a shadow and appeared in front of Long Chen. His face was expressionless as he said, "It's useful, but the energy required to complete the last 3 parts of the 8-part heavenly dragon mantra is incomparably huge. This blood crystal can only help you build the foundation for the 7th part. Compared to the value of this blood crystal, I don't recommend you to do this, the further one cultivated the 8-division heavenly dragon mantra, the more energy they needed. Now, the surging energy in this blood crystal could only help him establish the foundation of the first division. However, judging from Longmu's words, it seemed that he was unwilling to let him absorb this blood crystal. "What do you mean?" Longchen asked, somewhat puzzled. Longmu raised his hand and the blood crystal landed in his hand. Under the sunlight, it shone brightly with blood-red radiance. His eyes were sharp. He raised his hand and a rune vaguely appeared in the blood crystal. It was blood-red and extremely mysterious. "What's this?" Longchen was curious. The blood crystal he obtained earlier did not have this item. Longmu nodded and a touch of pride appeared on his face. He said, "All powerful races will leave the mark of an expert in their bloodline. They will inherit powerful secret skills and cultivation techniques. The Blood Demon clan also has their own inheritance. This Blood Demon's bloodline is not bad. He actually mastered a Blood Demon secret skill and passed it down through the blood crystal. As long as you absorb this blood crystal, you can obtain the secret skill within it. Blood Demon's secret skill? Could it be?" Longchen seemed to have thought of something and his eyes widened. He had seen the Blood Demon use the Blood Puppet secret skill with his own eyes. Under the condition of being suppressed by the celestial crystal, he could still fight against a group of people. This showed how terrifying it was. Could it be that this was the Blood Puppet secret skill? In that case, the foundation establishment of the 7 parts of the 8-part heavenly dragon technique was not a big deal. After all, there were opportunities in the foundation establishment. However, if he missed this secret skill, he would really miss it. Longmu naturally saw through Longchen's thoughts and said, "The Blood Demon clan has many secret skills. The Blood Puppet secret skill is considered one of the best among them. You're quite lucky. This is a Blood Demon secret skill. It's not in the ordinary cultivation technique system. Its power will gradually increase as you grow. I think you've made your choice." Longchen nodded. In the long run, the Blood Puppet secret skill was obviously more suitable. This secret skill was especially suitable for group battles. As long as the living creatures died in his hands, he would be able to control them. However, wasn't this method a little too evil? Longmu snorted coldly. He saw through Longchen's concerns and said, "There's no distinction between good and evil in cultivation techniques. It's only the person who's good and evil. If the heart is good, no matter how evil the technique is, it's just honorable. If the heart is not good, it's only sanctimonious." Longchen nodded. His heart was burning. He could not wait to cultivate this secret skill. After finding an abandoned 5-man cave, Longchen went in and took out the blood crystal. The bloodlight shone on his face. His eyes were sharp. A faint aura surged all over his body to receive the blood crystal. You have to experience it properly. This is your only chance. Longmu reminded him. Longchen nodded. The aura on his body surged and completely enveloped the blood crystal. Longchen laughed loudly. His eyes were extremely sharp. Streaks of blood-colored aura surged into his body. A rune shone in front of him. A blood-colored bat appeared. It whizzed over and sank into Longchen's glabella. Guard your mind. Don't let him take over your willpower. Longmu reminded. Longchen nodded. His eyes flickered. The golden aura and the red aura intertwined. He fell into a deep sleep. At this moment, in another place, the guardian had his back to the crowd. A group of people were kneeling below him. They were trembling under his coercion. Captain Mo, Captain Lu, 2 teams were wiped out consecutively. I want to know, what are you doing? The protector suddenly turned around. His tone was as cold as ice, causing the group of people to tremble. The black aura around him surged. He did not even look at the group of people below him. He looked into the distance. The corner of his mouth curled up into a cruel smile. He said, "It seems like someone has their eyes on us. I'd like to see what you're capable of." the people below were silent. They did not dare to speak at all. The guardian was temperamental. They were afraid of offending him and getting themselves killed. The guardian withdrew his gaze. He raised his hand and a black aura fell. A trace of it fell on everyone's body. They were a little flustered. They did not know what the guardian wanted to do to them. Don't worry. I've only placed a restriction on you. Once something happens, I'll be able to sense it. The guardian said. He was as cold as ever. Chapter 1460. Don't worry. I've only placed a restriction on you. If anything happens, I'll be able to sense it, the guardian said, still as cold as ever. Thank you, guardian, the people below shouted in unison. They also realized that someone was deliberately targeting them. With this item, they would feel more at ease. However, the guardian was expressionless as he looked at them. How's the collection of blood crystals going? Dozens of figures appeared, and blood crystals appeared in the void, shining with dazzling light. He raised his hand and collected all the blood crystals. He frowned, and his eyes were as sharp as swords. Not enough. For the Sacred Lord's grand plan, the more blood crystals the better. These are not enough. Lord Guardian. We've almost wiped out all the blood demons in the outer region. Where now? A tribe leader stood out and said cautiously. The blood demons had always been living an ignoble existence. How many of them could there be? It was already very good that they were able to do this. I only want the blood crystals. Whether you can find the blood crystals or not is your problem. The outer region is gone. Don't you want to go deeper? I'll give you 3 months. I need 300 blood crystals. Otherwise, just wait for the Sacred Lord's wrath. The guardian said, his voice filled with endless killing intent. The person who stood out just now was directly targeted by the killing intent. His soul was shattered, and his corpse fell to the ground. The others trembled and did not dare to say anything. They knew that if they dared to resist, they would end up like this person. Can you complete the mission? The guardian asked. We're willing to do anything for the Sacred Lord. We'll sacrifice our lives for the Sacred Lord. A group of people said. They were really afraid now. The pressure that the protector gave them was terrifying. A month later, the light around Longchen faded. He opened his eyes, and a blood-red light flashed in his eyes. Longchen stood up and swept away all the dust on his body. Did you succeed? Longmu asked. Longchen nodded and said, yes, I did. In Longchen's mind, a blood-red rune shone brightly. A blood-red aura flowed into his mind. He walked out of the cave and strode forward, encountering a pack of wolves. These monster wolves weren't very scary. Each of them was only in the Hongmeng realm, but there were just too many of them. 2 fists couldn't fight against 4 hands. Even an ordinary Hongmeng 3rd stage chaotic prime would be helpless against such a pack of monster beasts. Therefore, Longchen just smiled with a cold look in his eyes. Since someone had given him a pillow when he was sleepy, he could test the power of the blood puppet secret technique. With the dragon halberd in his hand, Longchen turned into a beam of light and rushed out. A cold light flickered and pierced through the forehead of a demon wolf without any suspense. The rest of the demon wolves all rushed forward. Longchen had killed countless demon wolves with his big moves. Streaks of blood-red aura emerged from his body and gradually poured into the corpses of the demon wolves. All of a sudden, they came back to life. They bared their fangs and their eyes turned blood-red. They began to fight with their former companions. Every time he killed a demon wolf, Longchen's team grew a little stronger. Later, even if Longchen didn't attack, the monster wolf army under Longchen's command gradually gained the upper hand. In just half an hour, the huge pack of monster wolves turned blood-red. They had all become Longchen's puppets. Not bad. This secret technique is very useful. Longchen nodded. This secret technique was really useful. However, at this moment, the blood red in the eyes of the monster wolves gradually faded. In the end, they turned back into corpses and fell to the ground. As expected, it's still too difficult for me to control the blood puppet with my current strength, Longchen said with a flicker in his eyes. The blood puppet secret technique was a bloodline inheritance of the blood demon clan. As a human, there were various restrictions when he cultivated it. Currently, he couldn't control these blood puppets for a long time. He could only control them for about an hour. There was also a limit to the number of puppets he could control. With his current strength, he could only control 500 puppets at most. This was only in the Hongmeng realm. If he reached the first level of the primordial chaos in Hongmeng, he would only be able to control 50 puppets. However, no matter what, this is a life-saving technique for me now, Longchen said. Although there were many restrictions, the blood puppet secret technique was also a very good secret technique that could make him more relaxed in a group battle. Not bad. Longmu sighed in admiration. Longchen stood up but just shook his head. Golden light surged and the contact information of the Holy Church appeared in his hand again. However, he found that almost all the teams had gone to the central area of the magic crystal forest. The danger there was much greater than the periphery. What were they doing? However, he didn't have time to think too much. He chose the team closest to him, stepped into the void, and left directly. Gradually, the trees around him grew taller and taller. Long Chen's eyes were cold and his body was surging with golden light. He had now entered the central area of the magic crystal forest. Here, danger lurked everywhere. Even a Hongmeng primordial chaos realm master had to be careful. Otherwise, they could easily die without a burial place. Following his senses, Longchen approached step by step and found a team covered in injuries. Judging from their appearance, they had obviously gone through a great battle. The leader was obviously the captain of the Holy Church. Captain, the protector is too ruthless. We killed all the blood demons in the periphery and only got 200 blood crystals. How can we gather 300 blood crystals? Yes, the remaining blood crystals will be divided equally among us. Each team has to collect 3 blood crystals. But as you can see, the blood demons in the central area are not as easy to deal with as the ones in the periphery. We have lost more than half of our manpower. More importantly, we only have 3 months. How can we do it? The group of people were filled with righteous indignation and kept complaining. The team leader also sighed. He had put too much effort into this mission. In order to kill a blood demon in the central region, almost everyone in his team had been injured. Several people had even died. It was too tragic. Don't say any more. For the Holy Lord's plan. For the glory of the Holy Church. We will only get what we pay in return. When the time comes, everyone will be meritorious, the captain said. Longchen watched all of this from the forest and the corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Really, he seemed to have picked up a great bargain. At this moment, the dragon halberd left his hand. His figure changed and appeared behind the captain. With lightning speed, he broke the captain's neck and beheaded him directly. The dragon halberd wandered in the void and pierced many people's bodies. Divine light flickered. Chapter 1461. Who are you? The remaining people exclaimed, but it was too late. In the next moment, the dragon halberd pierced through his forehead and wiped out his spiritual value points. Everything happened too quickly. The strongest captain did not even have time to react before he was killed by Longchen. The others could not even withstand a single blow. In just 3 or 4 breaths of time, the battle was over and corpses were everywhere. Longchen put away his dragon halberd and was about to seize his spoils when Longmu suddenly roared crazily, "Longchen! Run! There's danger! Run!" Longchen knew Longmu very well. Something terrible must have happened. Long Mu's eyes were cold and his body was filled with terrifying golden essence. Heaven and earth trembled. His feet moved and the void trembled. He was about to escape. As for the spoils of war, it was obviously not important now. Faster. Faster. That guy is coming. Long Mu was still urging. However, at that moment, the void behind Long Chen suddenly trembled and the protector's figure appeared. He did not even look at the corpses on the ground. Instead, he stared in the direction Long Chen left and sneered, "Hong Meng Realm Ant. How dare you be so arrogant? In this outer area, even if you're a disciple of a big family from the martial ancestor mainland, this protector can kill you. What can you do to me?" The protector clearly thought that Long Chen was a disciple sent out by a major power of the martial ancestor continent to gain experience. Only a place like that could nurture such a disciple. However, they were in the wilderness. Even if the protector killed Long Chen, the protector wouldn't be able to do so. Who could testify to that? He raised his hand and a black palm appeared. It was mighty and powerful. It was like an unparalleled mountain that was about to suppress Long Chen. He was a Hong Meng 7th stage chaotic prime. No matter how heaven-defying Long Chen was, it was impossible for him to block his attack. His strong self-confidence made him stop paying attention to Long Chen's situation. His gaze landed on the dead captain and the others. He did not care at all. He raised his hand, and a storage container appeared in his hand. A blood crystal shone brightly. Trash. It took you so long to get a blood crystal. The protector scolded. Then, he ignored the protector and disappeared in the void. As for the life and death of his subordinates, he did not care at all. The only thing he cared about was whether he could obtain enough blood crystals. On the other side, the black palm grew louder and louder, quickly catching up with Long Chen. He couldn't even think of resisting. Long Chen tried his best to escape, but he couldn't outrun the speed of the palm. Hong Meng's 7th stage primordial chaos realm was simply not on the same level as him. The power of one move was actually so terrifying. "Stop him!" Long Mu shouted anxiously in Long Chen's mind. Although he often mocked and ridiculed Long Chen, he was actually very concerned about Long Chen. If he fell, the Hong Meng Dragon clan would lose all hope. Golden Lotus God-killing array. Long Chen was really going all out. Golden light appeared and golden lotus flowers bloomed in the void. However, they were completely useless against the huge black palm. They only managed to delay it for a breath. The light of the huge palm dimmed a little and the golden lotus flowers were destroyed. Countless golden lights shattered. This was the first time Long Chen had encountered such a powerless golden lotus god-killing array. Seeing the palm approaching, Long Chen's face was filled with madness. He couldn't care about anything now. He spat out a mouthful of blood and it landed on the dragon halberd. The dragon halberd released an unprecedented light that drowned out the entire world. Runes flickered and at the same time, golden lotus flowers appeared in Long Chen's other hand. Golden lotus god-killing array. However, this time, the golden lotus enveloped him in layers. The golden lotus god-killing array could not only attack, but also protect him and ensure that he would not be harmed. At the same time, he also put on a layer of armor that he had obtained from Long Mu. He did his best to protect himself. The dragon halberd shone brightly and directly attacked the black palm. Light! He had already given his all and even burned his blood essence. Long Chen's body was trembling. After the black palm met the dragon halberd, it released an endless amount of light. However, after blocking it for 5 to 6 breaths, the light of the dragon halberd dimmed and it was sent flying. However, the black palm only dimmed a little. It caught up with Long Chen again and bombarded the golden lotus god-killing array. With Long Chen's current strength, he could perform 49 transformations of the golden lotus god-killing array. He had a total of 49 layers of protection in the golden lotus god-killing array. However, in the face of the black palm, his defense was like a piece of paper. All the defenses collapsed in an instant. Almost every breath, a layer of the array was destroyed. Finally, as the last layer of golden lotus was destroyed, the black palm landed on Long Chen's body and shattered his armor. Long Chen spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body seemed to have been emptied in an instant. His eyes dimmed as he looked into the void. He had already done his best. Was he still going to die? He was unwilling to accept this. He still had so many grand ambitions and so many karma that he had yet to complete. He still had not found Jian Shan or Zhu Ziyin. He was unwilling to leave just like that. His consciousness was leaving his body. In a daze, he heard Long Mu's roar, "Don't die." However, after hearing those words, he completely lost consciousness and fell into a deep slumber in the darkness. As Long Mu roared, a human-shaped puppet appeared in his hand. In an instant, the power of the Endless Dragon Palace was injected into it. A terrifying crack rapidly appeared on the puppet's body. The puppet's entire body seemed to have come alive. It started to ooze blood. It seemed to be outlined by countless Dao laws and transformed into Long Chen's appearance. In another space, Yen Li and the rest were still on their way. They still had to rush to other places to hunt. At this moment, Yen Li seemed to have sensed something. He took out a life token. The aura on it was rapidly dimming. In the end, it shattered. Brother Long Chen. Yen Li was indescribably sad. Although he had already thought of this possibility, he was still extremely sad when it really happened. Yin Yong looked over and asked, "Ali, what's wrong? Why do you look so worried?" Yen Li laughed bitterly and suppressed his sadness. Brother Long Chen is gone. Chapter 1462. Yin Yong also looked over and asked, "Ali, what's wrong? Why are you frowning?" Yen Li smiled bitterly and suppressed his sadness. Brother Long Chen is gone. As he spoke, Yen Li took out Long Chen's life tablet and gave it to Yin Yong. The life tablet had already lost its luster and was extremely dim. There was even a hideous wound on it. Sigh. Yin Yong sighed. He was clearly somewhat sad. After all, he had been with Long Chen for a long time. He had a very good impression of this talented and calm youth. But now, everything was in the past. Don't worry. It's very difficult to survive in this world. It's always the price of death. Let's keep going. The dead are gone. We still have to continue hunting. Let's go. Yin Yong comforted Yen Li. In the world of cultivators, death was the most common thing. Even if Long Chen's talent was extraordinary, a dead genius was no longer a genius. They would only disappear with the passage of time. Yen Li shook his head and hid his sadness in his heart. He took Long Chen's life tablet and said, "Okay." The group continued to advance towards their new hunting location. In the void of stars, they were as small as ants. Am I dead? Long Chen only felt a burst of chaotic light around his body. He opened his eyes and found that there was a hazy light all around him. He only felt a sharp pain in his consciousness. He couldn't help but grin. Where am I? Long Chen had doubts in his heart. Didn't he die after taking a direct hit from the protector? What was the situation here? What on earth happened at night? Long Chen struggled to stand up, but found that he seemed to be imprisoned. He couldn't move at all. What the hell is going on? Long Chen became more and more confused. At this moment, Long Chen's surroundings suddenly darkened. A beam of light shone in, causing Long Chen to be unable to open his eyes for a moment. He actually fainted again. When he woke up again, he was surrounded by luxuriant grass. Long Chen clutched his chest and sat up from the grass. His injuries were very serious. Whether it was his limbs, bones, meridians, blood, or flesh, they were all damaged beyond repair. Long Chen observed his surroundings. He was lying in a huge crater, and the crater faintly formed the shape of a huge palm. Perhaps it was because he had been unconscious for an unknown period of time. Grass began to grow on the ground around him. What the hell is going on? Am I not dead? Long Chen looked around in surprise, trying to figure out what had happened. Long Chen struggled to stand up. His current injuries were too severe. Even such a simple action was extremely difficult. A gust of wind blew past, but the clothes on his body had already been torn to shreds due to the passage of time. Long Chen stood there without a single thread on his body. But in the wilderness, no one noticed Long Chen. But Long Chen did not have such a hobby. He condensed a little power in his body to create a set of clothes on his body. "You're lucky to not die." Long Mu's voice came, but there was an indescribable exhaustion in his voice. "You're lying here comfortably. I've been your nanny for 10 years. I won't forget this debt." The shadow that he conjured was somewhat erratic. "You're quite comfortable lying here by yourself. I've been your nanny for 10 years. Although he said so, when he saw that Long Chen had woken up, he was very pleased. Long Chen had been lying here for 10 years. If he had not been controlling the pressure of the Dragon Palace to deter the surrounding monsters from approaching, Long Chen would have been torn apart by the monsters of Hong Meng. Long Mu was still here. Long Chen seemed to have found a reliable partner. He asked, "Long Mu, what happened to me? I remember that I was already dead under the protection of the Dharma Protector. Originally, you should have died. Or rather, you are someone who has already died once." Long Mu said faintly. Long Chen was a little surprised, but he was looking forward to Long Mu's continued explanation. Long Mu raised his hand, and a black puppet appeared on the ground where Long Chen was lying. The puppet was made of an unknown material, but there was a crack from head to toe. It was extremely hideous. "What's this?" Long Chen asked curiously. This black puppet was really strange. Long Mu looked at him faintly, and the black puppet fell into his hand. He said, "You're still pretending to be innocent. Among the Long Mu that you can activate, this is the most precious and rare death substitute puppet. You wasted it like this. As you can see, this puppet's name is Death Substitute Puppet. It can die once for its master. It's so magical." Long Chen couldn't help but be a little surprised. Long Mu actually had such a treasure. He didn't agree with Long Mu's words. Treasures were meant to be used. As long as he was alive, that was the best. Long Mu shook his head and put away the death substitute puppet that had lost its effect. He said, "Actually, you were able to survive this time largely because of yourself. The death substitute puppet only played a part of its role. There were different levels of death substitute puppets. The limit of a death substitute puppet was the attack of Hong Meng's 6th stage chaotic prime realm. Otherwise, if the strength of the attack was too much beyond what it could withstand, it would still die. In essence, the death substitute puppet was still a rune-type item. It needed time to activate. Long Chen faced the Protector's attack in one precious time. He also wore down half of the Protector's strength. That was how he survived and came back to life. However, the death substitution puppet will only revive your soul. As for the injuries to your physical body, you have to deal with them yourself. Yours truly has suffered for you for 10 years. I'm exhausted. Keep this, yours truly is going to rest." The illusory figure of the dragon tomb shattered and casually tossed him a pill. It emitted a strong medicinal fragrance and was very good for his recovery. Long Chen only felt warmth in his heart. Long Mu was a person with a sharp tongue but a soft heart. He was very proud. After consuming the medicinal pill, Long Chen's injuries recovered slightly. He was barely able to move around. He found a barren cave and sat down to meditate and recover from his injuries. The Holy Church. The grudge between the two of them could be said to be very big this time. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.